This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily on an absolutely glorious mid-September afternoon. Got some great weather coming up for these next few days. And it is starting to feel like fall, though. And with the fall, it means the return of the Winnipeg Jets. Prospect skating today ahead of the tourney in Montreal on the weekend. We'll look to have Dan Fink join us from Montreal on the show on Friday for the latest on whatever they're calling the young stars now, the Prospect Showcase or Prospect Showdown, I believe it's being referred to. First time they haven't gone out west, heading out east to Montreal this year. Braden Yeager amongst the hopefuls heading out there. Nikita Chibrikov, I saw Monson as well. So that'll be a focus for the next couple days. And of course, next week, we'll be, I guess, a week today, we'll be doing physicals, anyone that hadn't done them, and then a week tomorrow on the ice at the Hockey for All Center. Tomorrow's going to be a big day, though. Hear from Adam Lowry and Jonathan Taves, who will be speaking. And I believe Connor Hellebuck and Kyle Connor are going to speak at the golf tournament the Jets are having coming up on Monday. And Kevin Cheveldayoff will be available at some point over the course of the next week as well, or at the beginning of training camp. So we'll have all that coming up for you in the next few days here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll also have the latest on the Bombers, injury update on Zach Collaros, and we'll hear from Mike O'Shea coming up before the bottom of the hour as we get going on the program. A little later on, NHL talk with Dennis Bernstein, just finishing up in Vegas for the Player Media Tour. Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets, the reigning Hart Trophy winner and Vezina Trophy holder, back-to-back, by the way, was the Winnipeg Jets representative. So we'll get into a little bit of off-season NHL talk, looking ahead to dropping the puck. And Murat with his thoughts on many Winnipeg Jet-related topics. A little later on, Taylor Allen from the Winnipeg Free Press covering the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Taylor was in the Mike O'Shea scrum yesterday. Very interested to hear from Taylor on the latest on the Bombers as Chris Strebler leads the ones in practice going into Hamilton on Friday at 6-6 in a very, very important game. And we will talk a little NFL takeaways from week one and a little fantasy football with Thomas Tipple from Fantasy Points a little later on. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, welcome to everybody in chat. Great to see you all. Shout out to you podcast listeners. Podcast listeners, if you can, drop a 5-star rating and maybe a comment. Say something nice about the fellas. Great time to try to ramp up our spot in the algorithm as we get ready to see some numbers increase as hockey season comes back. And of course, hit that thumbs up button, you YouTubers, if you haven't already. Huge thanks to our sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Great to have the HSC $1 Million Lottery on board with us. Check out the site today and grab your tickets at hscmillionaire.com. Of course, our partners at Coolbet Canada. We got the big NFL Picks Week 2 show coming up 10 a.m. on Friday. Bookmark that, mark it down, set a reminder, all football, all NFL season long. 10 a.m. live on Fridays. Myself, Pat, and Jake with our picks against the spread, props, and whatnot. I also want to thank Princess Auto, St. Patel Dental Center, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club and Rollies Transfer, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, F Apparel, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, our friends at Assiniboia Downs. It's ladies' night tonight, 7:30 post time. Our friends at Breezy Bend. Of course, we'll get to a Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray, and some fan feedback for fansfirst.ca. Michael Remis, get in here. Let's get down to business. How are you?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. It's hockey season. The Jets prospects hitting the ice ahead of the prospects showdown in Montreal. No more young stars in Penticton. This is what we're getting, and what we are getting has today. We can celebrate hockey season officially here. We have lines. Shout out to Mike. Yes, we have lines for the prospects. So hockey season, this is official. First day, first line rushes of the season. Mike McIntyre reporting the top 2 forward lines for the prospects tournament. Chibrikov, Yeager, and Fabian Wagner with Kevin He, Colby Barlow, and Danny Zhilkin. So we have lines. We have Bombers have a closed practice today, so we don't have anything from that. But we do have lines. So exciting day today. First lines of the season.
Dude, and for folks, we've got a big Google Doc where we've got all our show prep on and a bunch of notes for different segments and guests and all that. I pull it up today. The first thing I see, prospects on the ice, lines via Mike McIntyre. And there it is. Chibrikov, Yeager, and Wagner. Nothing my partner likes more than dropping lines in and line combination talks. And hey, we will have legitimate games, so we got to know who's playing with who. And, the guys that we just mentioned certainly would be. I'm really excited to see Kieran Walton in this tourney. I guess his twin brother's also playing with the Jets prospects, which is sort of interesting. And these ones, at the start, we kind of were really paying close attention to the Penticton tourneys. Then, over the last few years, maybe not quite as much. But now, considering where the Jets are in their, with their team being sort of a more veteran team for the most part, this next generation of Jets battling for opportunity and playing time. This weekend, I think, will be, and again, take it for what it's worth. I mean, it's September. It's before training camp even starts. But it is a big opportunity, especially for the guys that still have junior eligibility to kind of show they belong with the big boys and maybe earn themselves a little bit more time in camp. But listen, before we get to the Bombers, I got to bring this up because I guess because there is obviously a Jets connection. There are some reports coming out of the Twin Cities that for the Wild and their fans have to be really concerning, but I'm not sure that there's not a connection to some other pending UFAs at the end of the year, namely Kyle Connor here in Winnipeg. Here's Frank Saravalli. Sources say Wild superstar Kirill Kaprizov's camp turned down an extension offer believed to be 8 years, $128 million in a meeting on Tuesday that would have made him the highest paid player in NHL history in both AAV at $16 million per year and in total dollars. Now, the Minnesota Wild said very clearly, Bill Guerin is on the record saying that we will not be outbid for Kirill Kaprizov and we will not be out-termed, if you will. And they put their money where their mouth is. That is such a staggering offer. You do wonder what in the world Kaprizov is saying no to. But this ties back to my point yesterday, Remo, when we were talking with Mike, that I'm not sure any of these guys in the situation that Connor or McDavid or Kaprizov are in want to be the first guy to sign. But honestly, and I'm sure the lines, everyone in Minnesota is just so fired up about the Vikings and J.J. McCarthy. Maybe this was a good time to have this happen. But if Kaprizov is saying no to $16 million for 8 years, what does that say about the money that it might take to get Kyle Connor signed? And if you're the Minnesota Wild and that's not going to get it done, what the hell else can you do to make this happen? Or do you have to go to plan B and that start figuring out what life might look like without Kirill and consider trading him?
Yeah, very interesting stuff there. Your eyes almost pop out of your head seeing, whoa, $16 million AAV, turning down, the highest contract. And my first thought is, well, this guy doesn't want to stay long-term in Minnesota. Does he want to go somewhere else? I don't know. Everyone seems to want to go Vegas, one of the Floridas. New York.
Dallas.
Yeah,
Nashville.
Yeah, now does he want to go to one of those? Or is he trying to push for more money? And I kind of agree. You don't want to be the first guy setting the market and then have someone re-raise you with a higher contract. But when they're saying, hey, this is the biggest contract ever, we're offering it. Well, how do you say no to that? And this is a guy who's had problems staying healthy. We remember Logan Stanley sitting on him a couple years ago, and he was out for a while. He was out last year as well.
I believe that was described by one bright light in the Winnipeg media.
Yeah, Logan Stanley gave him the bonsai drop, missed time that year, missed time last season as well while putting up MVP caliber numbers when healthy. Wouldn't you want that security? That's more money than anyone else has. So I don't know. I think it tells me, hey, they're headed for a divorce here. Is there a trade going to happen? But also what you said, what does this mean for potential offers for Kyle Connor? Is it going to be $11 million? Is it going to be $13 million AAV? And I think Connor McDavid's the one we're all got our eye on. What's that guy going to do? Jack Eichel as well. It's amazing how many guys there are, top players in the NHL entering the last year of their contract, and we don't really have clarity on any of them heading into the final year. So very interesting times here.
Watch Vegas go through a big song and dance with Eichel and then move off of him to get Kaprizov and fit him under the cap. Man, I mean, there's a lot of talk about the haves and the have-nots in the NHL and how certain teams seem to be the preferred destination of every single player that gets to the spot. Listen, Minnesota would be, I think, more in the have-nots, colder market. But they are basically doing what Edmonton seems to be doing for McDavid. I mean, rolling out the checkbook, adding a whole whackload of zeros, setting new records with the most lucrative offer, or would be the most lucrative contract in NHL history. And they got a hard no. So this, I mean, as I say, I will ask Bernstein about this when he joins us in a few minutes, because that is some news. And listen, the Jets fan in me is like, oh, geez, you don't say. Wilder having a tough time with their star player, getting him signed. And you sort of like it. And then you realize, well, hold on a second. The Jets are in a very similar position with their superstar forward. And I do see some similarities. Now, we haven't heard anything like Kyle Connor's turned down any massive offer. But I think it does put into perspective what it's going to take to get a player like Kyle Connor signed. And, hope that, Kyle Connor's agent isn't waiting for the Kaprizov deal to get done to then kind of use that as leverage. Bottom line is they got to get clarity. The Wild need to get clarity on Kaprizov. The Winnipeg Jets need clarity on Kyle Connor. And there's a lot of work going on that behind the scenes. We'll get Murat's take on all of this when he joins us a little bit later on. But let's get over to the Bombers, because they are reeling after back-to-back losses to the Saskatchewan Roughriders in the Labor Day Classic and the Banjo Bowl, and now head out tomorrow to the Hammer for a Friday night game against Bo Levi Mitchell and the Tiger Cats at Tim Hortons Field. We spoke yesterday about the practice. Chris Strebler was leading the ones. Zach Collaros was in a sweatsuit, was out and about, but not participating. And it took till the end of the day, after Mike O'Shea spoke, for the Bombers to put out the injury report. And unlike earlier this season, when it was categorized as a neck injury, the Bombers have said that it is a head injury. Now, it is not they never put the words concussion in, but I don't know what more we can take from what we saw with our own eyes on Saturday afternoon at Princess Auto Stadium, and now the announcement that it is a head injury, to think that it was anything but a concussion. But anyways, here's Mike O'Shea grilled by the media yesterday about the health and status of their franchise quarterback, Zach Collaros.
Mike, what can you tell us about Zach?
Well, he's out here today. Yeah, we'll see. Once again, it's one of those things, you check with them every afternoon, you check with them again in the morning, see how they make out through the night.
I know obviously you're pretty tight-lipped. Usually everyone here is about injuries and whatnot, but just with Zach's, I guess, injury history and whatnot, people are just concerned if he's even okay and whatnot.
I mean, I think as humans, we should always be concerned whether people are okay. But I'm always tight-lipped because I personally, I don't think it's anybody's business about Zach's state right now, right? But I think he'll be good.
Is his injury history kind of blown out of proportion, do you think? Or?
Yeah, I see that. It's going to sound argumentative, but I'm just not a guy that looks at what's happened before, you know? I look at each one as like in everybody's case, right? You get a guy, you know, who might do an Achilles and he had a broken finger. I don't look at those two things together, you know?
Well, with head injuries, though, wouldn't that be kind of different?
Speculating. Be careful.
Do you expect him to miss some time?
We'll see. Like I said, we'll see as the day goes on.
All right, listen. Everyone loves Osh. He is a legend here in this town, but I got to tell you, that was, in my opinion, that wasn't one of his finer moments, especially an hour before they put out the injury report that it was a head injury. And I get it. I mean, a guy that has a broken finger, it has nothing to do with an Achilles. But guys, it's 2025. I mean, we're talking about a guy that had some serious concussions before he came to Winnipeg. Many people thought he had a concussion earlier this year when he left the game, came back in, couldn't finish that game, came out, and then was motionless on the turf at Princess Auto Stadium on Saturday afternoon. And while he did get off and run off the field, I mean, head injuries aren't like broken fingers or Achilles tendons. And I don't know. I mean, like, listen, O'Shea's a player that probably got his bell rung a million times and, you know, played in a different era of football. But as a head coach of a professional team right now, speaking about any player, not just the quarterback, prior head injuries have to be taken in consideration. And maybe he misspoke, or maybe he was just, it was a moment where you didn't want to talk about it. But I'll say this, and I believe this to be the case, and it better be the case, that the Winnipeg Blue Bomber medical staff takes in prior injury history and what Zach Collaros has been earlier in his football career when dealing with what is reported by the team as a head injury moving forward, because we're talking about people's well-being and lives, and there's far too many stories about guys that gave their life to professional football that didn't have the care or didn't have the best interest of the player in mind when the teams were handling things, and it didn't work out for them well in the end. Zach Collaros could walk out right now as a Blue Bomber legend, an all-time Blue Bomber great, the guy that brought the Grey Cup back here, 2 rings, 5 straight Western Division titles. And I, as I say, I know and I feel like everyone there is looking out for him in his best interest. But that didn't really compute with what we just heard from Mike O'Shea in that ream.
Well said, Hustler. And yeah, when you have had multiple, concussions, that does play a factor. And for him to compare it to, a finger and a leg, that's not what we're dealing with. Taylor Allen asking about a head injury and him saying, well, let's not speculate. Mike O'Shea not happy with a lot of the online discourse. And he's going to be asked about Milt Stiegel's comments as well. That was not online. That was on TV immediately in the post game. And yeah, and then O'Shea saying, let's not speculate about a head injury. They did put out it was a head injury. I think everyone is just showing their concern, while Mike O'Shea he doesn't like to disclose injuries. That's part of what you do. Part of the job is disclosing the injuries. They put out the injury report every week. That's mandated by the league. So interesting comments there. I think you hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah. And listen, I'm not questioning that Mike O'Shea doesn't have Zach's health first and foremost in his mind. But listen, it is of my opinion, and this is just me, it's careless to speak about head injuries. And again, he said, be careful what you speculate. They put out that he had a head injury about 20 minutes after he spoke to the media. So maybe he didn't know yet. we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Bottom line is, now that this has been reported by the team as a head injury, it needs to be taken very, very serious considering his history with it. And again, this isn't a guy that, this is different than anything below the neck. We all know that. And I don't think that there really is any debate about it. That's why I was a little surprised from what we heard from Coach O'Shea, yesterday. A little bit more from the coach. And this is just more about, the online speculation, and certainly from Milt Stiegel's comments. This is what O'Shea had to say afterwards as the conversation continued with the local media.
There's been a lot of concern on social media too, and even Milt Stiegel said something.
Well, that's a good thing I'm not on it.
Right. So, there's a lot of that speculation going on. Milt says you should retire. Sorry, that's a better term. Is that a common thing to see? Because I haven't seen it too much times before.
Yeah, I think it's...
guys are just concerned for him, right?
That's pretty cavalier to say that, I think. Not knowing...
Yeah.
Or we're not professionals. We're not medical professionals. And we don't have any understanding of that. I'm saying is the media. Obviously, I would have a better understanding of what's going on. But I think it's cavalier to... It puts undue pressure on a person's family and their circle, right?
Yeah.
How are his spirits?
Yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah.
Outside of his, non-participation in practice, same old Zach?
Yeah.
Mike, does he have to practice then? Will you go right to the 11th hour to decide on that?
Yeah, I think you know me. I don't think vets need a lot of practice. But as with anything, anytime a guy gets nicked up, we are always going to put the player first.
All right. And that's certainly what you want to hear from the coach, that you're going to put the player first. And I have no reason to think that isn't the case. Just didn't understand how, in 2025 you can say that, you look at every injury individually. That's just not the way that it works with head injuries, unfortunately. We'd all love them to be in a vacuum and nothing that happened in the past matters, but it does. They got to win a football game, and it's not going to be with Zach Collaros, it doesn't look like, on Friday night. Chris Streveler, who is 2-0 as a starter. Lean on that, Bomber fans. When he's had the week one, when he's had the reps with the ones all week, he's won 2 games. Here's Osh on the confidence they have in Chris Streveler going into Friday.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? He's a natural leader. Just the energy he brings on a daily basis to practice, and he's proven that he wins games for us when he's in.
Mike, can you speak further on that leadership, how important that is to have a guy that's started a lot of games, that is that natural leader in the huddle, like during a game you get from Chris?
Yeah, I'm not in the huddle with him. I wish I could be, because I imagine it would just give me a little extra juice, He does. It leaks out of him, right? He steps in the huddle, and there's confidence that he's going to obviously run the offense and execute well. But if something were to break down, I think the players understand that he's going to give everything he's got, and someone's going to pay for it.
All right, there's Mike O'Shea. Now, Jason Hogan spoke yesterday as well, and here's Hogan on game planning, in all likelihood, with a new quarterback behind center.
Yeah, you hate to see Zach go down like that. Challenge, the playbook's open. So it's not, we've seen Strev come in there and do his thing, week one, a couple of weeks ago as well. So not that big of a challenge. It's more so on the emotional side. We just got to be able to understand that, it's part of the football game, unfortunately, but you hate to see that happen.
Does it come down to coaching to, ride that emotional wave and ensure guys are, where they need to be in game?
100%. I love my guys. I don't want to see any of them go down, whether it be Strev or Zach or, somebody up front, somebody on defense. So it's on us to just go out there, play clear-minded. Myself, same thing with the calls.
Does anything?
What did you see on that play? Sorry, DB. What did you see on that play where Zach on it?
They brought pressure, and unfortunately, he got hit. That's what I saw. I think we all saw the same thing.
Yeah, that was not a sight that Bomber fans or certainly anyone on the coaching staff wanted to see. One more from Jason Hogan. We're going to talk some hockey coming up in a sec. Here's Hogan on just asked if they can score some points with Streveler after being shut out in the second half against the Riders in the Banjo Bowl.
We did in week one, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah. So yes.
Well, I think it's been a bit of a roller coaster with Chris this year. Week 1, like you said, he was lights out. Then his next start, not as strong, we'll say. Why do you think it's been kind of such an up and down thing with him this year?
Well, I think everybody prepares, just like we've been saying from week 1, everybody prepares to be a starter, but the reality is you don't get all those starter reps, so it's hard to see it when you're not necessarily taking all the reps. I think that's part of it. Other than that, I think, again, Strev went in there. I think we were all in a space emotionally when Zach went down, but I thought we still did a great job of driving the football field. We just got to finish with points.
So there's Jason Hogan. Taylor Allen, who was in that scrum, going to join us a little bit later on today. Bombers closed practice today as they get ready to get out to Hamilton tomorrow. Hey, I mentioned this yesterday. We were out at the launch yesterday. Last week. We were so fired up on Winnipeg Sports Talk to be working with our friends at the Health Sciences Center again as they launch the HSC Millionaire Lottery. Help save lives at Manitoba's Hospital, the Health Sciences Center, and become a millionaire. You can order your tickets online right now at HSC Millionaire. You can get them in person at London Drugs, Red River Co-op food stores in Winnipeg and Selkirk, and the Co-op Main Street Pharmacy. This is just an absolutely incredible. It's the biggest lottery of the year. The grand prize winner will have a choice between 6 options, including 5 prize packages with homes, one in West St. Paul, Sage Creek, another West St. Paul, Oak Bluff, or Surfside Yacht Suite in Vancouver, BC, worth $1.5 million or $1.25 million cash free. But there's so many early winners, more than ever. A record number of prizes for early buyers with 32 early bird draws and 11 bonus draws, including a brand new Grey Cup bonus. Right now, if you get your tickets before September 25th, you'll be in for the fall bonuses worth over $48,000. 3 winners choosing from a 26 Toyota RAV4 or a $40,000 Indigo travel vouchers and $5,000 cash or $40,000 cash, and 2 winners of gas and groceries, $1,000 at Red River Co-op. There's a super bonus. There's a Grey Cup bonus. And as I said, 32 winners for the early bird draw, including 2 winners choosing from a 25 BMW i4 or $85,000 in cash. Do not wait, gang. Talk to your family, talk to your friends. Get your tickets now. Go online for all the information at hscmillionaire.com. Let's help out the HSC Foundation and let's make one of you Manitoba's next millionaire. Dennis Bernstein coming up in just a minute. Folks, if you have a move coming up, holler at our friends at Rolly's Transfer, family owned and operated in Winnipeg for over 60 years and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. They'll give you the white glove treatment that they're famous for as you move your family and all your prized possessions to your new spot. Get on over to Rollies.com and click on Request an Estimate. Use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. Simply let them know when and where you're planning on moving or what needs to be moved, and they'll turn around with a great quote and get you locked in for that white glove service that they are famous for. For all your moving needs, make it Rollies. Find out more, request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. All smiles at St. Vital Dental Center, gang. If you've been negligent on seeing a dentist, or your family's looking for a new spot to take care of everyone, St. Vital Dental Center has been serving generations of Manitobans. Got a beautiful new spot at 167 St. Anne's Road. State-of-the-art clinic, brand new state-of-the-art equipment. A lot of smiling faces on the staff and convenient free parking right behind the building. Hit them up at stvitaldental.ca, whether you need a cleaning, a checkup, or things like dental implants. They do it all. Dr. Terry will take good care of you. stvitaldental.ca. Make an appointment. Make sure you tell them that the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. And just before we get to some pucks, Bomber fans, don't forget the limited edition Canadian Club label Bomber bottle is available now for a limited time at your local Manitoba liquor marts. The official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Canada's original since 1858 Canadian Club, with a beautiful Bomber label And of course, while you're at it, we got this beautiful summer weather for a couple more weeks. Grab that Canadian Club Pack, the CC and Ginger, the Citrus Smash, the Half and Half, all waiting for you at your local Manitoba Liquor Mart's Canadian Club, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. All right, back from Vegas and the NHL's annual Dog and Pony Show with their big stars. Dennis Bernstein of the Fourth Period joins us now. DB, how have your travels been? You've been everywhere.
Still in Vegas, Hustler. I'm still here. We're going to do one more show. Me, Scotty Lachlan, and Dave Pagnotta. Power play from 1 to 3 local time. I guess that would be 3 to 5 in Winnipeg. It's been great. So we did the North American Player Media Tour, and now we've done the Milan one, which was a bear. You know, look, I never complain about work, right? But we did 26 interviews in Milan in one day. We started at 8 a.m. We finished at 4 p.m. So it's been great to talk to a lot of these players, get their thoughts about a lot of talk about the Olympics, obviously, and then the coming season as well. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind, and then we anticipate maybe going over for the Olympics, possibly for the Global Series in Stockholm this year. It's Pittsburgh and Nashville. So, but can't wait to get the season rolling. But this is the first step in that process.
Were you able to sit down with the defending Hart and Vezina Trophy winner, Mr. Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets?
No, I was not. No, they kept them away from us. But look, there's a lot going on based on the reports from this morning, Hustler.
Okay, let's get right to it. I had to ask our Jets part, but I mean, we led the first 10 minutes of this show talking about Frank's report that Kirill Kaprizov has turned down what would be a record-setting contract in the National Hockey League, both in term and in dollars, an 8-year extension offer of $16 million AAV. Dennis, what more does Minnesota Wild need to do to get this guy signed? And what are you hearing from people around the league there in Vegas on this news?
Well, people are just getting up here, because it's a late night town here. So I haven't
covered any information.
Exactly. I don't know. Hustler, sometimes I think it's an orchestrated effort by the PA to just boost these, because look, Connor's not signed, and whoever thought you'd come to training camp with Connor McDavid not signed, and now Kaprizov, well, you would think, and like you said, if you're a Wild fan, there's nothing more you can ask of your ownership group, because you just offered him the contract of a lifetime, a record-setting contract, as you mentioned. What more can you do? If that's really the case, and it's not just a pushback, like, what is it? You think he's worth $17 million a year? Look, he's very valuable. He was on a Hart Trophy pace last year. That guy, $17 million as a winger? No, I'm sorry. It doesn't work. And now the speculation is, and here's the thing, here's why I feel so bad about it. What do we hear for years? Billy Guerin's hamstrung by those 2 buyouts. And eventually he'll get to the point where they won't have the buyouts anymore, and he can give all the money to Kaprizov. Perfect transition. And now where we are. You got the cap space. You offer the guy what you needed to do, and he didn't accept it. Is it a game? Is it a ploy? I don't know. I thought he enjoyed playing there. But it's a case where he's really serious about thinking he's worth more than 16 per for 8. You got to look at a trade, Hustler. You do. Like, I don't know what more you can do to convince that guy to sign with that team.
Well, and you know what? It's funny. As we talk about, McDavid, Eichel, Kyle Connor, Kirill Kaprizov, I mean, all guys are going to be signing 8-figure AAVs. Minnesota and Winnipeg as well, maybe even more so, I believe really needs clarity on their players and their intentions and whether they can get them signed in the near future, because, and this is just my opinion, maybe people in the Jet front office feel different, but I mean, you don't want to go through what you did last year with Nikolai Ehlers and then lose such an important player as an unrestricted free agent with nothing coming back at the end of the year. And to do that with Kyle Connor would be devastating for this team. It would be very similar in Minnesota if they went through and lost their number one offensive cog for nothing. And part of the reason why I think these teams are engaging right now is try to get that clarity, because they certainly hope they can just take care of that business and move forward with a plan for the future, knowing that they've got their franchise players signed. But if that's not going to be the case, you have to look at other options. And Dennis, I brought this up a couple times last week and yesterday on the program. I do wonder whether there isn't a real reluctance of the agents of all of those players to be the first one to sign because of what that does. We see it all the time with NFL quarterbacks. Every time one of these guys gets a deal, they're the highest paid player in the league.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, they're not better than the guys that they're getting more than, but that's where the market is right now. How much of that might be playing into what we're hearing about Kaprizov and the fact that the other deals aren't done? To me, McDavid's a little different because he's going to they're going to give him a check and he's going to fill it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. So I know people think, well, Connor McDavid has to sign and set the market. No, he's one of zero. There's never going to be another guy like him. So he doesn't really set the market. Maybe Kaprizov does. Maybe Kyle Connor does for wingers. Maybe Jack Eichel does for centers who are elite centers, but not Connor McDavid. I think that's it. But there's some hesitancy. But here's the weird thing, Hustler. All these conversations has nothing to do with the salary cap. It's not like, oh, we can't sign this guy because of salary cap. It's the opposite now. We've got the money. We want him to stay. And they don't want to sign right now. It's gone not even 180 degrees. It's gone 270 degrees, Hustler. This is not about the salary cap anymore. This is about, do I want to play for this organization? What are you going to do? I think players are taking more control. I think players are taking the lead from Connor, who's saying, yeah, I'm going to get my money, but I want to see what this organization is going to do. So maybe Kaprizov doesn't believe that it's a Stanley Cup contender, right? Kyle's looking at, okay, Nikolai left, but we talked to Adrian Kempe. I'll talk to you from the player standpoint. They don't want this stuff to drag on either. And I asked Kempe, because Adrian Kempe, the same thing as Kyle Connor. Last year of his deal, big-time goal scorer, not to the level of Connor, just slightly below. He wants $10 million a year. They don't want to give it to him yet, right? And the one thing he said to me, he goes, I don't want to get to the trade deadline without a deal. He mentioned training camp signing. He mentioned Christmas. He's sweet, so he's low-key anyway. You can't really get much emotion out of him anyway. I don't think he's upset about it. He said, I love Los Angeles. I want to stay here. I think he would sign for 8 years. But I think it's more about these players wanting to win because they know they're getting their money. Also, right? Kaprizov's going to get his money regardless. Like, does he want to stay in Minnesota?
I don't know whether he's going to get 16 regardless. Like, well, I mean, maybe with how much the cap's going up. Like, to me, I had a sticker shock right off the bat that was even offered. Like, if I had heard the other way, Kaprizov team was demanding $16 million over 8, I'd be like, whoa. Yeah. I mean, okay, they probably finish in at around 13 or 13.5. The fact that it was offered and he said no is stunning. Yeah. And here's the other thing, Dennis. How do you think this will play? Like, the fact that this is out there now, and Michael Russo's writing about in The Athletic, and Frank, and we're all talking about this. This will be, despite the elation over their Monday Night Football win and their new quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, Minnesota fans are going to be freaked by this. If they don't get a deal done before the start of the season, like the home opener, what do you think the Wild fan reaction to Kirill Kaprizov is on opening day, knowing that he has turned his nose up at being the highest paid player in the history of the sport?
I don't think it'll be negative to start. But here's the thing. If the team doesn't start off well and he's not willing to sign, I think there's more pressure there. Plus, it's not a situation – it's still not Connor McDavid, where you're going to have guys in Edmonton asking every single day. Now, you might have Mike Russo asking, Joe Smith asking, but the degree of intensity in Minnesota isn't there in other markets with these other players. But, yeah, it may not turn out right. I mean, it's a guy who walks away. But you know what? Guy came in here, people didn't really know much about him. He wasn't a first-round pick, or he was picked in the 4th or 5th round, whatever. He loves it. He's been – and look, not for nothing, he could win the Hart one day. He was on that pace. I get it. Do you think – I think he's – like, you don't think that the teams that were interested in Mitchell Marner might not want to give this guy $15 or $16 million like a Carolina? Like, I think they might be able to do it. If you can fit it in, and you should be able to fit it in. Or Chicago – I'll give you them, Chicago. To play with Bedard. Chicago got a ton of cap space, right? So I think that when you look at this player, I think that I don't think the angst is there where it was like it is in Edmonton, or like it was throughout last year with Toronto. And I think these players don't want the distraction. I think they want to get – I don't think, to your point, teams want to get this business done and want clarity. I really think players don't want this to drag out because they don't want to walk into the locker room. Like Adrian Kepe doesn't want me to walk in every other week and ask him about his contract when we're getting to July and February before the Olympics. He wants it done. He wants it done. He wants it to stay. So it's some classic negotiation hustler, and it's the type of negotiation that we haven't seen, right? The pushback from teams is always, we can't fit you in. We'd have to trade a two-player and whatever. That's not the case anymore. And it's going to be not the case further when the cap expands even more so. It's about fit now for these players because I think they've come to the realization that regardless of where they go, they're going to get paid. They're going to get their money. It's where's my best chance to stay for a long term and win championships.
Yeah, and the one thing that hasn't really come out in reporting yet is like, why the no? Like, was it not enough money? Is there questions about being in Minnesota long term? Is it the direction of the team? And I mean, I'm sure everyone's digging on all of that right now.
I don't see how it could be the money though. That's
neither
more
do
money
I.
than anyone's been offered. Like,
neither
like
do
you
I.
want more than that. Like you're top of the market. Like you're. It's this is not the NFL or the NBA where you're throwing crazy. Look, that's crazy money anyway to play hockey. I just can't think it's about the money. And the other thing is Craig Leopold talked a couple days ago, like, okay, we're going to get this done. And now this report comes out. So there's a maybe a disconnect there between ownership and player and agent at this point as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the Michael Russo and Joe Smith article up right here. And I believe, yes, they said Leopold sounded optimistic last week about negotiations and admitted he was, quote, anxious about the upcoming meeting with their franchise player. Well, maybe we found out why. I mean, he said, I just feel like we're not that far off.
Yeah.
But if $16 million for 8 years doesn't get it done, you have to ask yourself, what in the world will? And I never for a minute, with everything that Minnesota said about what they were willing to do to keep Kaprizov, never for a minute thought that he might not be there. But when you say no to that sort of money, like, what do you think Bill Guerin's saying right now to his, assistants and people inside the Minnesota organization? If that
can't pull the hair out of his head, what more can you do? You have to start
thinking about the other, like, what's next?
Yeah. What's the next option on the chessboard? Like now you have to say, okay, hey, we got to go. It should be Plan C, but what's his trade value? You have to explore now. You can't not be prepared if this drags on. I think they have the luxury of time because look, camps aren't even open yet. Right? They haven't done medicals yet, so there is time to get this done. But if you're rolling around to like American Thanksgiving and there's still no deal, you have to prepare to make to trade this guy. I know there's this theory about, okay, sometimes guys walk to free agency. I get it. They can do that with, like here in LA, like you do it with a Matt Roy or even a Gavrikov, who they'll miss as well. You can't do that with Kaprizov. You can't let him play through, because then you get a situation like you did with Marner. You get nothing. And I don't think they can do that. I think they have to go the Rantanen route. That's what they have to do. And now it wound up okay for Carolina. They still are a contender. But I think by the time you get to American Thanksgiving and he's not signed to an extension, off of this news, off of that offer, if that's legit, then you got to start prepping to say, okay, what's his trade value?
Geez, it's kind of early for the trade bait boards to be up, but
it's never too early. Come on, it's the fourth. Come on, man. No. I got to do 2 hours on the air today.
I'm sure you guys will have 4 packages from other teams already floated out and what that might get to be done. Hey, as far as McDavid goes, I'm of the opinion he probably ends up doing like a 3-year deal, which kind of takes him to 32, and then he can take that 7-year deal, which takes him just about to 40 years old, all getting the point. But regardless of whether it's a short or long deal, you can mention what you think that'll come out with. What's the McDavid number going to be? Because that's going to be the top of the mountain for the National Hockey League, and should logically be the ceiling for any player, probably with a pretty significant gap between he and number 2. What do you think that McDavid eventually, regardless of where he signs, this next deal, how much is he going to get, Dennis?
I think in this neighborhood of what Kaprizov was over on 80,
what he just said 17. No to?
Yeah, exactly. Well, because Connor's, he's a different, he wants to win. He wants to win. The reason, again, he's not signed is he wants to see, look, can he be thrilled that they're going to go back with Skinner and Calvin Pickard again? I don't know. And not for nothing, this is a very different team this year. So it's a younger, like they're going to need Savoy and Howard to deliver for them on the top six. Like this is a different team, and I think that Connor's taking his time. I think the one thing that really exacerbated things when he talked about term and then he said no term, and everybody went, no term? I think Connor was just at the end of the sentence. He just wanted to put all the options on the table. I think he wants to stay there. I don't think he's not driven by money. He lost in 7 games. He lost in 6 games. He's driven by winning that third and fourth game. He's about winning that game 7 in Florida. So I really don't think he's worried about the money at all. I don't think it's about that. At least all his comments say it's not about that, because it hasn't been anything about money. People are being assumptive about the money with Connor McDavid, and they have a right to be, because with him, it's not about that. Had he won one of those 2 years, I think that he could have walked away with a clear conscience from Edmonton, build him the statue out in front of Rogers, and he can go on and play wherever he wants to play. If he wants to play in his hometown, if he wants to come visit with me in Los Angeles, whatever. I think with that, I think a lot of these players, and it's not just Connor, I think they're looking at the organization, the fit, everything. It used to be all about, look, it's still about the money, right? Because you asked me what the AAV would. But these players, it looks like that they're taking more depth to the decisions. It's not just what's the term and what's the price. It's, do I want to be here? What's the organization doing? Do we have an opportunity to win? And what's the team doing to make sure that I'm going to be surrounded by enough talent to win championships?
Are we going to end up in the NHL with a bunch of LeBrons where the star players are basically acting as de facto GMs as well?
Well, I think that you already have one in Edmonton. I think when you had Corey Perry and Evander Kane come in, do you not think that the general manager, if it was Jackson or if it was Kenny Holland, had a conversation about bringing them in? Of course he did. So I think we're getting there. But again, that's just Connor McDavid, right? Is Andrei Kopitar consulted about every move that Kenny Holland made in the offseason? Probably not. But yes, to your point, there's going to be more of that, especially if it's a singular play. Like at some point in time, Connor Bedard might have that throne to say, I want this player, I want that player. It's a select few, but to your point, Hustler, it's trending in that direction, which I think is great. I like the advocacy for these players, just not about the money, not just about the term. It's about, how am I going to be happy? And the money should make me happy, but winning would probably make me happy even more.
Well, I mean, hey, listen, let's see some of these guys take $5-6 million less than what their market value is, so they can sign more players. Like, it's great to say, oh, I want to win, I want all this, and I want max value. And listen, I think McDavid probably would be the one guy, ironically, that would take a little bit less if he thought that it gives him a better chance to win. I'm not sure the rest of these guys will. But Dennis, I mean, when we look at that scenario, back to the PA, I would think that McDavid and his agents are being pressured immensely by every other agent in the league to crank that number up as high as possible, because the trickle-down effect for the other top players and other players in general will be real. Although, ironically, in a salary cap system, the guys that really are going to hurt with that are the rank and file of the NHL, because for every extra $2 million you add on a star player's contract, that's one less player or one less raise you can get to a guy that probably deserves it near the bottom of the lineup.
But there are there's less salary cap killing contracts. Like, I'll give an example. Dustin Wolf. It's a lot. The kid's played 71 games. 71 games. He had a great season and carried the team on. Hopefully his back's fine because he carried the team last year. Right? But $7.5 million for 7 years. If he had a bad season this season, people will say that's a cap killer. It's not a cap killer anymore, Hustler. That's the difference. Like, you'd have to have some humongous contract to kill somebody's cap if it's going to be 110 in 2 seasons. I think is a great thing, which could say that, okay, because remember, I'll go back, I think about activity and trades. Like, I'll give an example. This is not going to happen, but let's say the Kings wanted to trade Kevin Fiala, right? 3 seasons ago, it's $7 million plus on term. It's really hard to do. It's not hard to do today. You can trade. So trading those players or signing a guy who's a middle six guy for $5 million when people blanched about a contract like that 3 years ago, it's not the case anymore. You can fit a $5 million. Like, if the Kings wanted to trade for Rickard Rakell or for Brian Rust, they could do it. Like, these teams can do it now. There's more flexibility. The problem is is that it's great to have flexibility. It's probably better to have a winning team because these elite players, yeah, they want their money, but damn it, hustle, they want to win.
Well, and the other part about it, I mean, it's great. You can see these guys can all be traded. Every NHL GM gives a damn no trade to every single player they sign now. Like everybody wants everything and wants their cake and eat it too. Oh, we want tons of player movement. We want the trade deadline to be exciting. We want all that. Oh, and by the way, we also want full control over where we can go and where we can be traded to. I mean, it doesn't work that way, and that's why the poor suckers on those panels for 12 hours on trade deadline day, of which you have been one of many times, are sitting there, talking about draft picks for guys that are in the AHL half the time because the deals are impossible. There are probably a lot of teams that would be in on players, but it's a non-starter before it even happens. And that's something that the NHL, I don't think it's changing, but they're dealing with right now.
I think the issue is if you go to like cap wages or puck beating and you look at individual teams, if there's a team with like 6 no movement clauses, that's like 1, 2, yes, I get it. Like core players, right? Drew Doughty has a no movement clause. I get it. But other than that, like if you're like a middle 6 player with no trade protection, I wouldn't do it anymore. It's not like that. And not for nothing. Also, if I'll give you like Zibanejad, New York. If they didn't want him, they would have sat him down in the summer and said, look, it's not working. I know you have no protection, but let's figure out a way to move on from. So I get it. You're right about that, blocking some players. But I think some players, when they know they're not wanted by an organization, they're ready to move. They're ready to go. So while it's certainly, I wouldn't be handing them out like candy in a candy store. And so you have to really measure a little bit more. But if you really want to move on a player, I think you can find a way usually to do it.
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, the Trent Fredericks getting 8-year deals with no moves. It's probably something we don't. I mean, it's just
it's a choice. It's always a choice, hustler.
And even when you're giving out 16 team no moves, I mean, at a certain point, the teams that everyone wants to go to. I mean, the teams that are more often not on that list. And the more and more we get in this cap era, the teams that are loaded that everyone wants to go to are always up against the cap and have difficulty making the deals. And the have-nots that would be all over players like that can't even get in the game.
And that's a danger. So you have a danger of, and it's something that when you think through it, like MLB, let's be real here. MLB, there's probably 8 teams that can win every year. That's it. Like Kansas City's coming into camp, but they're not winning, right? The Pittsburgh Pirates are not winning. Cincinnati Reds are not winning. You might have it because of what you just said. Like you could have a team load up a Raquel or Rust and fit them into a contending, like to the Florida Panthers. Maybe not this year, but at some point in time, you're going to have more of a cushion. You can do that, and you might have these players who only want to gravitate to certain teams in the South or the West or whatever. You might have that eventually happening. I don't think right now off the bat, also, but when we get to 110, we get to 115, you might start to see these super teams like you mentioned LeBron or like you mentioned in the NBA. It might get to that point. I think we're probably 3 years away from that occurrence really happening where it's going to be a swing like that where you can have teams that can really build depth with respect to the salary cap.
Dennis, just before we go, I mean, what's going on in Vegas? You talked to a bunch of the players. I mean, just everyone, the usual upbeat, looking forward to the season, getting ready for another run. Any of interest or any player that sort of surprised you in your conversation that you hadn't talked to before?
Well, they're all in the best shape of their lives. They're all great. They all had great
best shape of our live season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Hampus Lindholm said, his best hockey still ahead of him at 31 years old. I think my biggest takeaway from Milan, not so much here, was William Nylander. Because William Nylander sat with me and Dave Pagano in a room, there's 3 of us talking, and he was great for 15 minutes. You know why? There weren't 25 microphones in front of him after they lost 5-1 post-game, right? So from him, he was open, he was honest, he was very matter-of-fact, he was relaxed. So I think that's it. When you get these guys 1-on-2, the guys who are playing in big markets that say, why do I want to play in Toronto? But when you get them 1-on-1 or 1-on-2 like Dave and I did, he was a really great interviewer, a very thoughtful kid who still wants to win, understands what happened with Marner. And so for me, the fact that he was in such a small setting with only 2 reporters was really, it let his personality show a little bit more. And that was one of the reasons we went over to Milan for the European tour.
Did he wear a shirt for the interview?
He did. It was 8 a.m. in the morning. I said, it's the early. He goes, no, I already did 3 interviews. So yeah, the hair was flowing. He was really chill. He was really. I wasn't expecting a lot from him because he plays in Toronto. He's a very guarded player. But he opened up. I think the fact that he was in Europe and not back in North America helped as well. But he was a really good interview. I was really pleasantly surprised.
DB, great stuff. Have a great show this afternoon. I don't need to tell you to enjoy your time in Vegas. I know you will. And we'll catch up very soon. Looking forward to the season, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Well, it was a pleasure being on WST. Hustler, thanks for the time. We'll talk to you soon.
Later, dude. There is DB, Dennis Bernstein, thefourthperiod.com. All right, Murat's going to join us in just a minute. Of course, I do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for the great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. You know Princess Auto, headquartered and founded right here in Winnipeg and now coast to coast, home of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Princess Auto Stadium. But Princess Auto is also where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete those projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you over at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them on Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon. You can shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. One thing that you're going to need as we get ready for the change of the season is to make sure that your ride's going to get you where you need to go all winter without any interruptions. Nothing worse than being that guy that's got to call your friend for a boost or make that emergency call to Manitoba Battery. Of course, Manitoba Battery's been powering great summers with boats and batteries for boats and campers and ATVs, you name it. Now it's time to get ready. And hey, Manitoba Battery is your local option where you will save big money, beating the pants off the big box stores for price, with the best service in town. As Donnie says, wake up Winnipeg and stop overpaying for batteries there when you've got a local option that'll save you money with the best customer service in town, including delivering those batteries to you for free with any purchase over $60 inside the perimeter of Winnipeg. So pop by and see them in store. Logan Avenue, their new store on Dovercourt Drive in the south end of the city, or simply go online to manitobabattery.com. Big harvest sale on right now. You can find out more on the big deals to be had online at manitobabattery.com. Order online, and they will head to you. And by the way, Richard Ray in chat just said, I just picked up 2 batteries from Manitoba Battery today because of their support of WST. We get so much great feedback on Donnie and his staff there, manitobabattery.com. But better yet, pop by and see them in store. They'll take very good care of you. And hey, guys, as we get into fall, if you do need to up your menswear game, you know where to go. F Apparel, 190 Smith Street, just a slap shot away from the arena downtown, with the best in custom men's clothing. Custom suits starting at $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the best selection of menswear accessories around. Check them out online at EPHapparel.com. You can make an appointment to come in for a fitting there as well. And don't forget, fellas, if you're getting married or in a wedding party, talk to the guys at F about a great discount when the boys get their suits for the big day at F Apparel, 190 Smith Street, and again, online at EPHapparel.com. All right, let's head out to the Hockey for All Center. Murat Atesh joins us now, and starting to feel like the season's here, Murat. Great to see you from the rink. What's going on?
Hey, great to be at the rink. That's the joy in all of this, for sure. Great to see a full group of veterans skating. Jonathan Toews passing to Scheifele, passing to Josh Morrissey, to see that group get together, to see Adam Lowry skating on his own. And then, of course, the top prospects getting ready for their tournament this weekend. Just spoke to Colby Barlow one-on-one, just spoke to Braden Yeager in a group. Mark Morrison had lots of nice things to say as well. I mean, just the season, buddy.
You know it. Of course, the prospects are heading out to Montreal on the weekend for this new tournament, a bit of a showcase before rookie camp and, of course, main training camp next week. We'll get to the prospects in a minute. Was this the first time you've seen Jonathan Toews on the ice? And I'm sure you were paying close attention to 19 out there. How'd he look?
Yeah, this is my first time being at one of their skates here. I know he's been on the ice with the group, but where I've been paying attention to Toews, this is my first direct viewing. And I think for me, it's just watching the integration and watching the way that the Jets veterans sort of interplay with him. He's very much part of that veteran group. He's doing a lot of side plays with Scheifele, with Morrissey, with all those guys. But then you talk to some of the young guys too, and he shook hands with Braden Yeager the other day in a food line. They had a quick chat there. It seems like he's integrating just fine, and we've always known this is a big homecoming and a big deal for him. He knows what kind of fishbowl he's getting into. Seems like he's on the right foot. We'll talk to him tomorrow and see how it feels for him.
Yeah, definitely a lot of intrigue to hear, Toews' first sort of media gathering, after skating with his new teammates a lot and looking ahead to training camp. As far as the vets go, anything else stand out from a mid-September captain skate before camp?
Yeah, as far as the vets go, I struggle to make any giant reads in terms of their informal skates and what's going on. It's good to see the group. It's good to see certain players participate in that group. To see Brad Lambert not necessarily part of the prospect group is kind of neat. We haven't talked about Ville Heinola in a million years. To see him skate with that group, great. But the big deal for me is that basically everybody, maybe Nino Niederreiter isn't here yet. Kyle Connor and Connor Hellebuck. The main group is here, and it's just a sign. Oh, Nyquist, that's the one I was looking for in my mind. Pardon me. The main group is here, and to see them sort of getting things going, that's just the fun stuff. I actually think I got some takes I want to make from the young group. We can get to that. It's just nice to see everybody together, though.
Well, listen, yeah, I mean, the focus will be on, I believe, Lowry and Jonathan Toews will be speaking tomorrow. We'll hear from Kyle Connor Hellebuck on Monday at the golf tourney. And then we'll be hearing from a lot of them on a daily basis when training camp gets going. But let's focus in on the prospects for a minute. Braden Yeager and Colby Barlow, the two guys that I think will be have a lot of eyes on them in Montreal this weekend, getting ready for camp as they transition into pro hockey. What did you get from those two, both about the opportunity this weekend and what's to come when camp gets going next week?
Yeah, Braden Yeager was really thoughtful. I asked him kind of how he balances being a wide-eyed at the idea of playing in front of the Bell Center with the Jets jersey on. And the Bell Center's sold out, right? Like, there's a possibility if everybody stays for all the games that there's 20,000 people watching this tournament. Wow. It's crazy. And then also the fact that, he was drafted a couple of years ago, and in some ways amongst this group, he's a veteran. And he said that, yeah, he's trying to soak it all in, be a sponge, enjoy the fact that it's a barn like the Bell Center in Montreal, let himself be wowed by it, and then also just bring the best of himself because he's turning pro and he's trying to not just turn pro and make the Moose, which is probably the most likely outcome for him. But he says, look, I'm here to win a job from the Jets too. I'm here to put my best foot forward. And it was kind of cool to get into that type of conversation with him. Colby Barlow, I just wanted insight in terms of, he had a real tough first half last year, and then a lot of stuff started coming together for him in the second half. In the playoffs, I think he scored 14 goals in 21 games, which is just an incredible scoring clip. And that was kind of the numbers that you'd want from a 20-year-old in the OHL. He had a monster playoffs. And I kind of got into it a little bit, like the conversation was, what does it feel like when you watch the hype get hot and then cool off and then come back? What's it like to be a person who's going through all of that? And he shared his thoughts on those topics, which I thought were really, really quite fascinating. The wild thing, if you've been paying really close attention to Jets prospects with Colby Barlow right now, is he has leaned out. A lot of guys talk about, hey, I want to add 15 pounds of muscle every offseason. And you hear at training camp, everybody's 10 pounds heavier, in the best shape of their life, stronger than they've ever been. He wanted to get quicker. And so he changed a little bit of his training in terms of trying to arrive at a sweet spot in terms of being strong, but lean and fast and all that sort of stuff. And he's trying to get himself into some real great spots to take advantage of his shot and play a better 200-foot game too.
Listen, we'll be paying close attention to Yeager and Barlow in the games on the weekend. Interesting to see, and I'll just get your take that Elias Salmonson and most notably Nikita Chibrikov put their hand up and said, no, I want to be there. I want to play. I want to be in those games. And certainly from Chibrikov's side, he could be skating with the vets and see a Thursday But he's heading out there looking to get a head start on his opportunity.
Yeah, he's already a quality Manitoba Moose, and he's a realistic prospect for the Jets too. I wrote about him at the site this week, trying to project when he'll make the NHL on a full-time basis. Got into all that sort of stuff. But to speak with Mark Morrison, one of the reasons why Nikita Chibrikov was keen on this is he got hurt partway through last season, right? And he was having a capable year. He can do a lot of things at the pro level already. But now getting back into the swing of things to try to give himself the best chance and have a great start, he wants to get into corners as soon as he can. He wants to get into battle situations. He wants to win pucks and all that. And he wants to do it in a competitive setting as soon as he can. So he's not skipping out on anything. He'll be a full participant in all of it. And I think he really wanted to be a part of it. And he'll be on the top line, I think, with Yager and with Fabian Wagner, which should be a pro-ready top prospect line at this tournament this weekend. That's pretty cool. And for me, Salamonson, we're all in this market so aware of his quality. So, I think out of market tends to undersell just what trajectory he's on. I think he's a really excellent top 4 prospect. I think it's not going to be incredibly long before he's knocking on the door, even if it doesn't happen this year. And there's a chance that someday he's as high as a number 2 RD on the Jets lineup. People dream about him with Morrissey, maybe even. And if he's a top 4 defenseman, well, he's still a pretty young one. And he stands out at this level, which is great. He should stand out amongst the prospects and just handle his own zone, which will be great. But I think he's in a really good situation if he doesn't make the Winnipeg Jets to have a dominant and dynamic Manitoba Moose season this year.
Just on the prospects, you mentioned you had a couple takes. I mean, what's intriguing you about what we're going to see on the weekend in Montreal and that group as they kind of battle to, catch some eyes once we get to training camp?
Yeah, I think we spent a lot of time talking about the top end guys, the first rounders, the Barlows, the Lamberts. Nikita Chibrikov's worked his way into that conversation. Salamonson, we talk a lot about. Braden Yeager, an exciting one. There's kind of like a major group there. Sasha Bomedjian, if he were here, that would be another one we'd be talking about. And then there's this wave of Winnipeg Jets drafted late who've dramatically outperformed their draft spots. And for me, Kevin He's a great story. I remember his pro camp last year making things hard on established NHL players. But my day one, way too early take is that Kieran Walton is on another level even than that. You had him on your show last year. You were talking about the wonderful season he had, the huge year-over-year improvement that he had. In my mind, I know we're talking about a lot of other guys. Kieran Walton in the long term has really jumped forward for me. And I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to check myself a little bit, but I almost think in terms of a long-term outlook, I feel like we should be including him in that top group of guys with that other group. I like the speed he plays with. I like the speed he appears to think at. There's not a lot of dead space between ideas that he has on the ice. He's got the size. He's got the puck skill. I don't know. I'm particularly excited about Walton's long-term trajectory here and now.
It's funny that you say that, Murat, because I was kind of getting into it yesterday on the show when we were going down the number of players that are going there. I mean, the guy that I might be most excited to see, at camp even, just with how they measure up, is Walton coming off the season that he had. I mean, I remember talking to him in Vegas after the Jets picked him in, the 6th round. And, he came over, he was really well-spoken. He was big. I mean, he's like 6'5" or something like that. And you think, okay, well, he certainly has the package. And then the scoring explosion that he had last year on a team that had a huge drop-off between his production and everybody else shows that he was really leading the way and being a driver. And, when you combine the growth that he had, the production that he had last year, with the package of size and speed, it's pretty tantalizing. He certainly doesn't look like a guy that was picked in the last couple rounds of the draft. And, he's a player that I think we will be talking a lot about over the course of training camp and then following his development next year, because all of a sudden that could be a real gem that the Winnipeg Jets picked up later on if he can continue the positive development and battle for a legitimate spot on the roster at some point in the future.
100%. at The Athletic this week, Corey Pronman is doing a series where he's redrafting last year, the year before, the year before. He's looking at recent drafts, watching how everybody's done since then, and sort of updating what a draft order might have looked like. And in the case of Kieran Walton and Kevin He as well, but just to a slightly lesser degree, they've skyrocketed up his list and like have a chance to play NHL games, which based on where they were drafted was not the conversation at the time. But I was there with you, Huss. He came over, he was well-spoken. He's obviously a very big player as well. But for me, you know, sometimes you see players at the junior age take over, and there's just one thing about their game that can't be handled. Maybe he is too big for some of the defensemen. Maybe he's too strong. But he actually has so much dynamism to his game. He's a quick player as well, like you mentioned. There's speed as part of that package. There's some puck skill as part of that package as well. And so, yeah, he's going to have some new problems to solve against pro veteran players when he gets there. He's going to have some players with experience and size and strength and even just some tricks on the walls and in front of the net that he hasn't necessarily had to deal with yet. But I think he's the sort of player that has enough going for him that he should be able to learn to solve those problems and is a really exciting prospect.
Now, he's 19. When he was drafted, he was 18. For some reason, I thought that he may have gone through the draft one year, but he'll likely be back in the OHL this year. I guess not Moose eligible.
You know what? I think I tripped myself up on this just speaking now. And then once I think I deleted and rewrote it when I was writing about them this week, because I keep thinking he must be 20 as well. I don't have it in front of me, but I actually think that you're right. And he's a teenager, likely to be an overage or junior player. And then that's just going to be a whole bunch of problems people can't handle if that's the case, if we've got that straight.
Yeah, listen, I've just pulled up his DB. So he's April 2206. He's 19. For folks that just want a little bit more of the CV on Walton, 6'6", 216 pounds he's listed as. And when the Jets took him, 187th overall in round 6 in Vegas, he was coming off a season where he had 65 games played, 18 goals, 43 assists. Last year, he more than doubled everything in the same amount of games. 66 games, went from 18 goals to 38, went from 25 assists to 54, 43 points to 92, and was more than a point-a-game player in the playoffs, although Sudbury didn't stick around for very long. I mean, that is significant growth. And there's a number of players, Murat, when you look, players that have ended up being, longtime NHLers, that at some point in their junior career, they get comfortable, they take a big, big jump. And even then, the jumps honestly don't normally look as significant as what Walton did last year in the OHL.
No, it's the scale of that improvement. And then, like you mentioned as well, to do it on a team where there isn't a lot of scoring around you, sometimes it's okay, a player got onto the top power play and they played with all these top 5 picks or something like that, and they weren't necessarily driving the bus on it. Kieran Walton had to create a lot of things for himself. To have that growth as a player, that is substantial. 100% it is. And the Jets have a few players like that. He's not the only one. Kevin, he improved year over year in a big way. I mentioned that. Jacob Julian, since they drafted him, like there was a time he wasn't a full-time OHL player, Jacob Julian, and he had been playing a tier below that and then got called up, I think, by the Knights, and things started to go really well for him right before the Jets drafted him. So there's some pretty cool draft and follows going on. To add another name to that list from players who will be at this tournament this weekend, Edison Engel, who you might recall when he was a kid, he came to Winnipeg for a tournament and he happened to meet Jonathan Toews while walking his dog. There's another player who you're going to look at his DB, you're going to look at the stat sheet, and he doesn't have a lot of points. But he's at a great situation in college, and he's in a great situation to grow. And in a couple of years from now, we might be saying, well, whoa, they sort of did well to get him late as well. It seems to be the story, which is great, because at the other end, Winnipeg's last first-round pick to become an everyday player is Cole Perfetti. He was 10th overall. He's 23, turning 24, and there's not somebody yet, nor have there been any top 10 picks since him. So they've been in a tough spot. it's been great that they've been able to have these later round success stories.
You mentioned Jacob Julian for a minute, and he was picked in the 5th round in 23. And he played 40 games in the OHL that year with 16 points. He was playing, also in London in a league below, as you mentioned, and killed it. He had 41 points in 22 games, earned the call up. But the last 2 years, I mean, back-to-back OHL champion with the London Knights. 67 games, 29 goals, 78 points in 23-24. The production went down a little bit last year, 11, 43 for 54 and 65. But a point-a-game player in a championship run in both playoffs as well. I guess he's a guy that'll get a chance to come in all likelihood, being a 20-year-old now, get an opportunity to potentially be a regular with the Moose. And, much like we've seen a Chibrikov or whatnot, get there and then show that, okay, there is another level and start knocking on the door of the big club.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember at Dev Camp, he and Colby Barlow were trading barbs because I think he defeated Barlow on the way through that OHL run. That group of players, there's with maybe less upside, but I'm not sure if that's fair to say. But I think of Fabian Wagner. I think about Danny Zhilkin. I think there's a group of young players in who will threaten for Moose jobs, who are going to play important roles that we probably don't talk about a ton because the Moose went out and signed a whole bunch of veterans. There's going to be more offense from that group. And then, of course, they've got some top prospects. We've got a bug on the screen. I don't know if you saw that fly. So there are some young players with pro potential that may play different, less feature roles. And I put him in that group. I don't know that he's going to step into a major offensive position for the Moose when he makes that team. But if you give him a few years, there could be a really good pro there that helps that club and then maybe challenges for an NHL spot someday.
Murat of The Athletic is with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Prospects event out in Montreal on the weekend. Winnipeg Jet training camp next week. We're going to be all over it. We'll be live, actually, at the Hockey for All Center when things get going next Thursday, next Friday, and we'll be there for Fan Fest as well. Looking forward to hopefully seeing many of you there for that. Murat, I have to ask you about the big news of the day. I'm sure you've probably seen your colleague Michael Russo's already writing about it. Frank Cervelli broke the news. I just need to make sure I have these numbers right. Kirill Kaprizov and his agents have turned down it's reported by Frank Cervelli, turned down an extension offer believed to be 8 years, $16 million AAV, $128 million. Listen, as a Jet fan, you're like, oh, sucks to be the Wild. But again, this is not a unique situation. The Jets have to sign Kyle Connor. We just had Dennis Bernstein talking to Adrian Kempe. There's McDavid, who's kind of in another class. There's Jack Eichel. I'm sure you've had a few texts as well. I mean, what's your reaction to that sort of money reportedly put on the table and getting a hard no from one of the top stars in the league?
Yeah, the most lucrative AAV in NHL history? Nope. The most lucrative total value in of any player right now? Also, nope. So what does that mean? I guess the two biggest interpretations would be that either he's really gunning for max, like whatever the max percentage is. When you read Michael Russo today, he's got some insight from the GM's perspective as well. And it seems like Minnesota's trying to put forward that they're not actually that far apart. And Russo does have the goods because a little while ago, before this offer was made, he wrote that this is the offer that was going to get made. So maybe even at that incredible amount of money, they're still quibbling over $500K this way or what have you. But when you hear that a player says no to that, your hot take is kind of that, like, either he wants the league max or maybe he doesn't want to be there at all. And, just thinking about getting to unrestricted free agency might be exciting for him. It's incredible for me to see a number like that declined, but I'm not Kirill Kaprizov and I'm not his agent. And maybe they've got a reason for it.
Well, I've speculated that I think there might be some internal pressure within the PA, particularly for the guys at the top to, wait it out a little bit more. I don't think any agent wants to be the first one of those guys to sort of sign the deal and then have that pegged as the market and then other guys get one over. But the bottom line is these are all real variables and I think influencing factors with the Winnipeg Jets trying to get their business done with Kyle Connor.
Yeah, Kyle Connor would be another one in that group. And if the more money Kirill gets as a guy a little bit further up the NHL stardom chain, well, it does lift that next wave of players as well. It does lift what becomes a reasonable ask for Kyle Connor. And like your speculation, by the way, Huss, I've talked to people who 100% agree with that there was a couple of years where everybody looked at Sidney Crosby at 8.7 and was like, hey, that's noble and great, but it's also holding back what the rest of the NHL star players can make. Eventually, they just stopped using Crosby's contract and comparables in discussions because they treated it as an outlier. In this stage of the game, you might look ahead, well, what happens with that Connor McDavid deal? Will he sign at any amount of discount with Edmonton to help them stay competitive? Will he sign max term? And how will agents respond to that? If he does sign with a bit of a discount, then does that mean that their players have to take less money as well? The more you can get this second-tier superstar, which Kaprizov would be. He's obviously an incredible star in this league, but he's not McDavid, he's not Matthews, he's not Draisaitl or what have you. If you can get him approaching max term in dollars, if you can approach that with 5 or 6 players instead of just literally the best player in the world at any given moment, then every other very good player / star has the case to make a few $1 million more. And that's probably where a lot of those agents say, hey, don't take the low ball offer, take the most. It's just crazy to me because I don't see it as a low ball offer in this case.
Well, it's very interesting report today, and I do think that there's a trickle-down effect on a number of other guys in similar situations with the term of their contract expiring. Kyle Connor being one here in Winnipeg. Murat, great stuff as always. Thanks for doing this today, and I look very much forward to seeing you in person next week when we're all down at the rink.
Can't wait for it. Thanks for having me, Huss.
Appreciate it. There's Murat Atesh. You know what? You can check out his latest in The Athletic right now. The Athletic also has this article from Russo and Joe Smith. And we kind of went through it. I mean, this is the Frank Saravelli tweet earlier today, if you missed the start of the show. Sources say Wild superstar Kirill Kaprizov's camp turned down an extension offer believed to be 8 years, $128 million in a meeting Tuesday that would have made him the highest paid player in NHL history, both in AAV of $16 million a year and in total dollars. And Reem, you can imagine how this is going over with Wild fans right now. I am looking at the very first comment is just an all caps 4-letter word that begins with F. The next comment is, you can say that again. A Columbus Blue Jacket fan chiming in saying, I can feel this in my bones as a guy here in Columbus. There's here we go again. There's his agent is a fool. There's a real chance he's injured 25 to 30 games a year, hampered by said injuries, and he loses out on tens of millions. Honestly, a 4 to 5 year deal might be all right for the Wild. Take some of the risk off when he reaches his mid-30s. Yeah, well, guess what? The 8-year deal at max at that $16 million is already on the table. I don't think they're looking to go the other way. But the cope will be real right now in Minnesota because, as I mentioned, vibes are high after what J.J. McCarthy did on Monday night. But the tortured Minnesota sports fan angle back and in full force today with this news out of the Twin Cities on the no from Kaprizov and his agent.
Yeah, I imagine if you're a Minnesota Wild fan, maybe revisit things. Sorry, I'm just texting with Taylor Allen about him possibly coming on. But yeah, it's pretty crazy about Kaprizov, guy you followed. You think he's going to be there for a long time, and for him to turn down the most money, bit of a shocker. And where do you go? Does it mean there's going to be a trade, or is this just negotiating? They're just trying to squeeze even more. Mind you, the players believe that they're entitled to a bigger, the top players are entitled to a bigger, number as the cap is rising in the future. So I don't know if the book is closed until we see reports like, hey, they're going to trade him or he absolutely will not sign. I don't think that is out there. He didn't like pound his fist on the table and say, I'm not signing with you guys. So, could be just a negotiating ploy, or we could see some trades coming. I do wonder, maybe there will be some of these free agents players entering the last year of their deal that don't stay with their teams. Is it, we have Connor here, Eichel, McDavid, or are they all just going to resign Kaprizov, Kempe, Dennis talked about. So it's going to be, we're headed to a very interesting season here with this rising cap and the number of top players in the league who are in the final year of their contract.
Well, yeah, and listen, I'll put Minnesota in a similar category to Winnipeg. They got to figure this out. They have to know one way or the other. Is their offer good enough to get a deal done? And if not, okay, where do we go from here? Because losing a player of this stature, in a market that is not normally a go-to spot for big money free agents is very problematic. So, what do you think about opening night there? And I'm trying to put it into perspective. Like, what would Kyle Connor's a beloved player here in Winnipeg. If there was a report that the Jets offered him something far beyond what I think most people thought we'd be getting, and I would certainly say the $16 million is more than I figured they'd have to pay for Kaprizov. Like, I'm thinking like 13 or 14. So $16 million and you get a no. That would rub a lot of fans here the wrong way. And if this carries on into the season with this black cloud of him saying no to a record-breaking contract in the National Hockey League, even though I know they're all Minnesota nice, I really do wonder how, what sort of blowback there are from the fan base and what that does to the team at the start of the season. Like, if that is still not done, and you know that he said no to that, I mean, the questions every day about where they go from here are real. And like I said to Dennis, this is a long day at the office for Billy Guerin, because I give Wild credit for backing up everything they said that they were going to do. We're going to give them the longest, most lucrative contract that we're able to do, and no one's going to be paying them more. And I agree. I don't think there's $16 million elsewhere on the market. Maybe, I guess, if he got the next summer, that's a possibility. But there's the potential for this really to kind of blow up on Kaprizov, at least in the short term. He's still going to get his money one way or the other. But to me, it really changes things and changes the entire conversation around the Wild after this report came out today.
Yeah, just looking for some reaction out of Minnesota. Minnesota, reporter for their broadcast, Kevin George, says this is exactly how negotiations work. Remember, Kaprizov signed his last deal on the eve of training camp. Everybody relax and let's see what happens in the next 5 or 6 days. The top comment is, as a Minnesota sports fan, I'll relax when I'm dead, which I had a good laugh at. So maybe it is posturing, maybe it is negotiation. I think it's hard to turn down, and I do think it does rub fans the wrong way, where you see, hey, this guy doesn't want $16 million a year for 8 years to play for us. Screw that guy. Maybe there is some of that mentality. I think, easy to have knee-jerk reactions right now. Maybe we should wait and see. As what was the deadline for, you and Ken set the deadline when we should worry about Kyle Connor.
Well, Ken's deadline is March. My deadline is Halloween.
Oh, we're living start of the season.
Ken and I are living in different worlds right now when it comes to that conversation. Like, the start of the season won't be good, but I mean, when we get into November, if there's something not done, I mean, to me, the Jets more than any of the teams, including Minnesota, I think need to have clarity on that, because if you are being forced into a situation where you have to move off a star player, you need time. You need as many teams as possible being involved in the bidding for it. And you need to give time to potentially work on an extension in the new market for that said player. So a fascinating report out of Minnesota. And as they say, they are a rival, a team that many Jet fans love to hate. but there are some similarities between these two teams as to where they sort of land in the pecking order of the National Hockey League and the stress that puts on the GMs and organizations when it comes to pending unrestricted free agency of star players like Kaprizov, or in our case, Kyle Connor here. All right, I know Michael Shea's late today, so we probably are going to have a tough time hooking up with Taylor Allen. Not a lot to report from practice today because it was closed. But we'll have more on the Bombers. Hammer's going to join us on Friday, and we'll have more tomorrow if we're not able to connect with Taylor today, as he's on a flight. But we do have a little bit of football. We mentioned yesterday we were talking with Paul Lapalisse. They're getting ready for the big flag tournament. We also got a chance to catch up with Michael O'Connor, former BC Lions quarterback that is now Lapo's quarterback for Canada's national flag team. So we'll catch up with him for a minute. We do have Thomas Tipple coming up. I can't wait to talk to him about week 1 in the National Football League. But we'll tee up Michael O'Connor in just a minute. Folks, hockey is back, and that means that you need to get down to Royal Sports to make sure you've crossed everything off that list to start the season. Royal Sports, for over 50 years, has been the hockey superstore with the best selection of sticks, skates, equipment, you name it, they've got it. But also with the hockey players working in the store to make sure you're getting the right fit and the right advice on equipment for players at all levels and at all ages. Pop in to get ready for hockey season at Royal Sports. And while you're at it, get ready for Jet season with all the new jerseys and gear coming in. Tons of great Bomber gear. And of course, as your NFL headquarters in town, tons of NFL merchandise for all 32 teams. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Pop down and see them today. And of course, you can also follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Big Jays win last night. IKF, who would have thunk it? The 9th inning hero. Jays walk it off in 10. They're back at it tonight against the Houston Astros. If you're looking for a great spot to watch the Birds tonight, or getting ready for a big Thursday nighter in the NFL tomorrow with the Packers and Commanders, Boston Pizza is your spot. Get together with your gang at your local BP Lounge and enjoy those ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas. And hey, if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, Thomas Tipple coming up. We got lots of questions for our fantasy and NFL expert. First up, we're going to talk with Michael O'Connor. But before that, let's give a big cheers to our good friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, well, we've had a lot of fun following our good friend Paul Lapalisse's journey as the head coach of Canada's flag football team, especially now that it is an Olympic sport. And Canada's flag team getting set to compete in the 2025 IFAF America's Continental Championship on Panama, coming up on the weekend, starting actually on Friday with the game against Guatemala at 8 in the morning. You can watch all of the games at ifaf.tv. And former CFLer, now quarterback for Canada, Michael O'Connor joins us now on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Michael, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks for doing this. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks. How are you?
I'm great. I mean, this is such a great time for football fans. We got the stretch drive in the CFL. The NFL is just getting started. But I got to tell you, we, obviously through knowing Coach Lapo, have been paying a lot of attention to our growing flag program. And we've been wanting to get you on to talk about the experience and what's ahead. How much fun have you been having with this transition from being a professional quarterback in the CFL to being the leader of the growing flag football team here in Canada?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's a really fun game. And, the guys are great on the team. And, we have a lot of fun out there. And it's a different game, but at the end of the day, it's football, right? So just got to get it to the open guy. And no matter what the field is, you always want to go out there and compete and just, and go out and win. So we're looking forward to it.
Now, you kind of one of the, a bit of a class of Canadian quarterbacks that came in. Obviously, Nathan Work and Trey Ford are in. You finished up in 2022 with the BC Lions. Tell us about what happened after that and how you're here talking to us as QB1 for Team Canada and the flag.
Yeah, so after the 2022 season, I was still, working out and getting ready and staying alert for 2023 because you never know, right, in the CFL with all the injuries and whatnot. But call didn't come, so I thought that was it, really. And but I'm still, throwing. I do a lot of coaching out in Vancouver, coach quarterback, so I'm still involved in the game a lot. So, I'm still staying in shape. And then I got a call a couple months ago from Coach LaPolice, and he was just saying, he's taken over as head coach for the flag team and on a journey to the Olympics, and if I'd like to come out and play. So I thought, that'd be a great opportunity to keep playing and go from there.
Had you played much flag football? How familiar were you with, flag right now and obviously at the highest levels that you guys are playing at?
Yeah, I wasn't really familiar with the game and still learning the nuances of things, right? We got a lot of guys on the team who've been playing a lot. Flag's really big out here in Montreal, so a lot of those guys have been helping me and helping Coach LaPolice just learn the, intricacies of the game. But at the end of the day, it's football, right? And then just got to throw the open guy, be accurate, be on time, right? It doesn't matter where you're playing. Those are the two big things of being quarterback. Be accurate, be on time, and then make good decisions with the football.
It is such an exciting time for the sport. And, obviously you're coming from a professional background, so you hadn't been playing as much. But, flag not only is exploding at, recreational levels, but at a junior level, at a youth level, it is, everywhere right now. And, considering what you guys are working on right now to really establish the program, as one of the leaders, it must be great to see how many young people are getting involved in this. And I think it's really going to help the amount of attention on your club in events like this on the weekend and moving forth to the World Championships and eventually the Olympics if you guys can qualify.
Yeah, I think it's like you say, with the announcement of flag being in the Olympics, it's really taken off. And even like I coach flag in Vancouver, and next year I'll be coaching a women's team for the first time. So to see them, have a big interest in the game is really cool. Just growing the game, both on the men's and the women's side, and it's something that you can play for a long time, and it's a little more available, right? Because all you really need is a pair of cleats and a set of flags. So in that sense, it's great to see the game growing.
Michael O'Connor is with us, former CFLer, now the quarterback for Canada's flag football team, who's competing in Panama at the America's Continental Championship on the weekend. First game Friday, 8 a.m. against Guatemala. Michael, if you can, we always love talking X's and O's with Lapo, and he does such a great job on TSN. Tell us about your first meeting with Coach LaPolice, and what did you have to focus on? What were the big differences? Tell us about the transition from what you had been doing in a place like BC to a similar but very different new sport as QB1 for Team Canada.
Yeah, I'd say at first it was kind of a lot. But to be honest, at this point, I say because it's 5-on-5, it's really a lot more simple, right? Because there's only so many defensive coverages you can get. There's only so much the defense can do, right? So in that sense, I feel like the game's kind of slowing down. And, Coach LaPolice has got some great plays, kind of trying to take some of the stuff he did in the CFL and apply it to the flag game, because I think there's a place for a little more structure and a little more kind of systematic approach to the game and flag, then that's what we're trying to do. But at the same time, there is a lot of creative stuff you can do. So I think we're trying to find the balance of, being able to be consistent on offense and get it to open guy, but also do some of that creative stuff too.
Michael, tell us about the tournaments you guys have played in before. We had Lapo on with us a month ago or so, and I was just asking him about, and he was incredibly proud that your team went down to Los Angeles, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, handed the United States team their first loss in like 6 or 8 years. It seems like things are going pretty well for the team heading into Panama.
Yeah, that was really big for the program, just to show the world that, we can play with the best of them, right? But with that being said, that was in the past, and they're going to definitely come out with a much heightened level of focus and attention. But at the same time, I think that we got some more stuff now being together for another series here, and we're going to add some stuff and continue to build on what we did. And like, that was my first flag game ever, right? So I feel like
that was
I've definitely
your
grown
first
since
game
then.
ever?
Yeah, that was the first game ever. Yeah, beating USA. So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Man, you got the QB1 swag for that. I mean, coming in game number 1. Listen, I mean, it's kind of funny that you say that because, I mean, you're going into a situation where everything is sort of new. But to pull off, what was the reaction around? I mean, that's your first game, but I mean, I'm sure the people that have been with the program for a long time knew how significant that was to sort of announce the arrival of Canada as a legitimate competitor for the top teams in the world.
No, exactly right. I mean, there's a lot of the guys on the team who were kind of just saying how big of a deal that was. But, being new, you kind of doesn't really think in, you're just out there playing football, right? And just trying to win and take it one play at a time. But like I say, it's a new day now, and they'll come out with a lot of intensity. So we'll have to match that. And they are a great team, got a lot of athletes, and it should be exciting. We'll get them again in Panama, so that'll be a good one.
I'm just looking at the schedule right now for folks that want to check this out. Again, ifaf.tv for the streams of all of this. Friday morning, taking on Guatemala at 8. And then at 11:45, Canada versus Brazil. Saturday morning, 8 a.m., it's Colombia, Canada. And then the game, I think if you're going to watch one game, put it on put a reminder on right now. Saturday, 4:45, USA versus Canada. And then on Sunday, the placement and the medal rounds. Michael, obviously you want to win all of these games, and we'll talk to Lapo about this, but as a team, the goals right now are pretty clear. You have to get a certain amount of placements and place at a certain level, which continues to move you forward for world championships and then eventually the ultimate goal of being Olympians and being the Olympic Games. How does that all work?
Yeah, so we have to finish top 5 in order to continue on our pathway to the Olympics, right? So if we don't come top 5, the Olympics it's over, right? So it's quite serious, the gravity of what's about to happen right now. Obviously, we plan to be doing much better than 5th, but this is the real deal now. I know Olympics is 3 years away, but all these tournaments now we'll have to win, or else we could potentially not make the Olympics. So yeah, we're just continuing to focus on playing our best ball and competing out there and keep this journey going to 2028.
Well, we're certainly hoping that will be the case. That all starts in Panama on Friday. And Michael, pretty incredible start to your flag career with that big win over USA. Wishing you and the team nothing but success moving forward. Get those wins that you need. Have a great time in Panama, and we'll look forward to having you back talking about a successful tourney and what's next for you and Team Canada as we get closer to the big events for World Flag Football. Thanks so much for doing this, and good luck on the weekend for the country.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. All right, good luck to Lapo and the squad. We're going to have to check that out on Friday morning, and was it 4:45 Saturday, the Canada-US game. Just amazing that was his first game as a flag quarterback, and they beat the U.S. that hadn't lost in 8 years. Anyways, thanks to Michael for coming on. Good luck to Coach Lapo and the squad going on. All right, we are going to talk to Thomas Tipple coming up, a little NFL. We got to ask some big questions. What did we learn from week 1 when it comes to the NFL and, of course, fantasy football? Before that, though, couple tourneys overseas. And here in North America, as the Ryder Cup teams prepare for a battle in a couple weeks, we'll be all over that here on Winnipeg Sports Talk with our Breezy Bend golf reports. And I got to tell you, some of the boys were out at Breezy yesterday. I was a little jealous I had to work because it is some gorgeous September golfing weather right now. If you are thinking about making one of Winnipeg's top private courses your long-term golfing home for you and your family, get in touch with our pal Corey Johnson, the reigning defending general manager of the year, I will say, in Manitoba golf, and a heck of a good dude, at 895-7205, or go online to breezybend.ca for more information about 2026 membership over at Breezy Bend. We will get to our Assiniboia Downs picks at the end of the program, but I do want to get to the why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray, and we weren't able to talk to Taylor Allen about it. We played it off the top. Bomber fans, interested in your perspective on what you heard from Mike O'Shea at the top of the show. Again, it was just shortly before they listed Zach Collaros with a head injury on the injury report. But you know, just the notion of taking injuries and not looking at past things. I know that the medical staff does, but is this, are they in a bit of a state of denial right now, or is this just protecting a player, protecting his privacy, and wishing the best for a guy that really is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers' best hopes to win games? Why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray? Let us know in the chat. All right, let's bring in our pal Thomas Tipple from the leading fantasy football site on the planet, fantasypoints.com. When we're leaning on fantasy or betting advice, or all over Fantasy Points with the Fantasy Points data suite. They've got the best research tool in the world. You want to pick it up for the season, use code WST10 to sign up and dominate your league. You can hit the contest. We gave our first 3 memberships out earlier. WinnipegSportsTalk.com/contest. Final 2 winners will be announced Friday. So get those in as well and check out the site today. It is awesome. Thomas, it is my duty as knowing that you are a Ravens fan, before we dive into the fantasy implications of what we learned, just to see how you're doing after yet another incredible, implausible, almost unbelievable loss to the Buffalo Bills in the fashion that they did on Sunday night. What a game.
Well, the thing is, it's only unbelievable if you didn't see it coming. That's where people make that mistake. There's just a sense when you are watching your favorite teams implode. I told you guys this backstage. I bet against the Blue Jays when they were up 8-1 on the Mariners. I bet against the Leafs when they were up 3-1 on the Bruins, and pretty much every series they've ever been in since. And I have made a ton of money betting against the Ravens in clutch situations, and none of it was surprising, and you can see it coming. The Ravens lose their aggression after about the 8-minute mark in the fourth quarter. I mean, they had over 400 yards of total offense. They put up 40 points. They had scored on every drive, and their last 3 drives was punt, fumble, punt. And they had all 3 timeouts, 4th and 6, I believe, 4th and 5, and they decided to punt away to a guy that just can't be stopped when he feels like it. I've always said the same thing about Josh Allen all the time. He looks like the worst quarterback of all time in the first half, and he becomes unstoppable in the second. It's like he tries to make the game harder. It really wasn't surprising. As much as I want to say the Ravens had lost that game, I'm not going to take anything away from Buffalo and everything that they did. They did what they had to do, and they took advantage of when they could. And it's sad. It's depressing, and I'm somehow ready for the Browns to put up 45 on Baltimore again. But if you remember what I said last week, trust nothing in week 1. Week 1 is going to continuously play tricks on you. Look at Jets Steelers, lowest point total of the week, and was arguably the best game on the opening slate, if not the entire Sunday, except for Sunday Night Football itself, with the Jets looking more and more like the Detroit Lions and the Lions did now that they have one of those Detroit Lions-esque offensive coordinators calling plays. You saw it in their pre-snap motion rate, jumped way up, the play action rate, way up. There was a lot from week one, but I will say my heart is now, the tone has now been set for the Ravens season, and now I know what to expect for the rest of the year, and I will be skeptical.
Well, the funny thing is about the Ravens, and I pay a lot of attention to Baltimore, seeing as they are one of, if not the biggest challenger to the Chiefs in the AFC, is that they've had these really brutal starts to the season before. You mentioned the Raider game last year. That was embarrassing. It seemed, even more incredible because it was the Raiders and not the Bills that it happened against. But, they'll get to 2-2, and then they'll rattle off 11 wins, and everyone will have them at the top of the power poll, and then we'll brace for it again.
And then the next quarterback that's not named All-Pro will also be given a pity party MVP like Josh Allen was last year. Did you know Josh Allen's MVP last year? It is the first time that the first team All-Pro quarterback was not named MVP since, I believe, Montana in 1988. They quite literally reframed the rules for Josh Allen to win the MVP. The only other time that happened was the co-MVP season of Peyton Manning and Steve McNair. But since they were co-MVPs, McNair was AP QB1 and Manning was AP QB2, it didn't matter. So the only other time that the voters have voted in that way was this year, and it was only because they chose to take the playoff game into consideration.
Well, it was also his turn. I mean, listen, the reason why Mahomes has slept over, well, he's won it already. I know he's really good, but now it's going to be Joe Burrow's turn, which it would have been if he had made the playoffs last year. Well, guess what? Your team wasn't even in the playoff party.
Well, here's the thing, Huss, and you're absolutely right. If you want to track who's the favorite for the MVP start, watch CBS Sports on Twitter and see who they are posting the most about. Last year it was Josh Allen all season. It was destiny. Lamar Jackson should have had his third, regardless of what had happened in that playoff game. Statistically speaking, he should have had that third. But you're right; it was his time, and they wanted to, and it is a little bit of voter fatigue. But again, track the first team All-Pro quarterback's history and have that linked to MVP, and you'll find something incredible about that. But again, not going to take anything away from Buffalo. They did what they had to do, and it's going to be the same 2-3 teams at the top of the AFC at the end of the year.
I am thankful. I was glazing that game all week. I can't believe the schedule maker gave us that one, and it was a true classic. And we might get to the end of this regular season, that might still stand as the game of the year. The bar was certainly set really high. Let's go around the league a little bit and takeaways like this. We want to lean on you, Thomas, for what we learned, both from a football but especially a fantasy perspective in this game. Let's start with that Jets game. Big ups to you. You came on the program and said, guys, Justin Fields, if we're looking at futures, lay in on Justin Fields, both from a fantasy perspective, the rushing yards he gets is going to make him very, very startable. And you should also look at those futures. And we were DMing during Sunday saying he's well on his way to maybe getting some of those milestones in the first half of the season.
Right.
On the other side of things, Aaron Rodgers went for 4 touchdowns as well. I mean, what were the big fantasy implications or your takeaways from that Pittsburgh Jets game?
Well, we had obviously Justin Fields, 29.5 fantasy points, which is second best on the week. But what I found more impressive, he had 10 designed runs, which scrambles and everything are great, but the designed runs are what really set a player apart. And it looks like they are fully ready to unleash him, especially in this offense. And remember when I said do not panic sell Garrett Wilson, it just may not be pretty all the time. Well, don't panic sell, and it might be pretty. Garrett Wilson had a 36.4% target share. His slot rate is up to 54.2% versus the stagnant 32.5% that it was last year. Obviously, people make fun of players that become slot wide receivers because we're conditioned to believe you have to be Calvin Johnson at the X on the outside or a Z type. No, slot receivers are fantasy friendly. Look at Puka Nacua, who's going to set records in the NFL so long as he decides he wants to continue playing. Slot wide receivers are cash money. I don't know how many times we have to see this be proven. Juju Smith-Schuster with the Steelers when they were going crazy. You had Cooper Kupp with Sean McVay. Slot wide receivers are cash money, so we've got a 54.2% slot rate, something to watch. Also, way easier for somebody like Garrett Wilson to get off the ball and use that to his advantage. If you want to talk a couple of stats over on the Pittsburgh Steelers side, the backfield was absolutely disgusting. It was nasty. It's a three-way running back split. Jaylen Warren led with a 12 expected fantasy points, which expected fantasy points is the greatest indicator of actual point value or a player's value within a game. It takes look at down, distance, play type, etc., a lot of factors, and it gives you a better stats than just total fantasy points. 61%. And he had also had 100% of the snaps inside the 10. That's nice, but Kenneth Gainwell led in routes. Caleb Johnson, he's a hold, even though he fumbled, and we know how Aaron Rodgers feels about rookies as it is, so it doesn't look too good for him. But he was drafted highly enough. He's definitely a hold. But what I'm most interested in here is Calvin Austin was second in routes. He had 6 first reads. There's a potential PPR scam, but just note Arthur Smith's number 2 option has never seen, I believe, north of 110 targets. So I'm not going to drink the Calvin Austin Kool-Aid just yet. I will also say for any matchup with the Jets, Sauce Gardner shadowed DK Metcalf, and Sauce Gardner did not shadow at all next year. So last year. So it'll be interesting to see from that. But if you want Jets Steelers, that's what I have. And I've got stats for every single team. You pick your favorite. Also saw someone in the chat saying the Chargers need to start getting more love as a top team. Don't worry. I have the Chargers finishing 1 in their division. So there you go. Also,
good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Jim Harbaugh will win Coach of the Year. Not John, but Jim.
Yeah, well, let's just look. Listen, full marks to Justin Herbert. I think that might have been his best game. As in
Greg Roman's best game calling a football game.
Well,
since
listen,
2019 against the Miami Dolphins as well.
It came together big time. Listen, Rashee Rice was already out.
Yes.
Xavier Worthy gets blown up by Kelsey on the first play of the game, and then Patrick Mahomes, who was absolutely brilliant in that game, make no mistake about it, spends the rest of his time running for his life, creating plays, doing magical things to keep them in the football game. But Tyquan Thornton, Hollywood Brown, a couple other guys, I can't even remember their name. I mean, fantasy-wise for the Chiefs, what does this mean for them in the next 2 weeks before they get Tyreek Hill from the Dolphins?
Yeah, I have Tyreek Hill going there week 5, which would cause me to have nightmares for how much I'm relying on Rashee Rice when he gets back. But I will tell you this. You want to play Hollywood Brown until they add anybody. Marquise Hollywood Brown had 16 targets, a 40% first read target share. A lot of it was dink and dunk until the deep ball towards the end. But I don't care how it happens. I care that it happens. 23.2 expected fantasy points, actionably functioning in the Rashee Rice role while Worthy and Rice is out. That is what we want. It's also a great indicator if they do choose to do nothing, because it's the Chiefs and they'll probably win 3-4 games anyway, regardless, even if Travis Kelce is absolutely dust, which week 1 most definitely proved. They used a little bit of deception and a great play design to bust him open, but he is on the tail end of his career. He's not a dependable fantasy asset, in my opinion, from anything that I saw. But you definitely want to be playing Hollywood and go and acquire Rashee Rice before he comes back. I firmly believe when he is back, we are getting immediately 17, 18 points per game. As for the running game, they've already talked about how they want to run the ball a little bit more. That split was a little bit disgusting. 67% of the snaps inside the 10. That's a little gross. Brashard Smith was out there, but not really in a really meaningful way. I don't think any Kansas City running back is startable this season until somebody takes over. But for now, it's absolutely disgusting and gross.
Listen, we won't go through every game, but there is always, and it's funny because I've been looking around my leagues at the waiver wire. And unlike usually in week 1, there's some guy that has just popped off and nobody has him, and it's like a race to get him. It doesn't really seem that's the case this year in most 12-team leagues. But I think there's a lot of players that had their stock rise significantly based on what we saw in week 1, and some others that are freaking people out that picked them. Like, let's start with the risers. You give us a handful of players that you think their outlook is a lot better after what you saw breaking down the tape from week 1 in the National Football League.
So I'll be the first one to tell you that there is no such thing as breaking down the tape for me. I will never claim or lie to tell anybody that I am a film grinder. I watch every game. I absolutely do not. We have a fantastic charting team at fantasypoints.com. They are the GOATs. If I have a question, I just ask them. So keep in mind, any note that I give you about a player and how they look and what they do, keep in mind that is coming from professionals that actually know what they're doing.
It's a team.
I take a look at the data and I try to apply it. But with that being said, let's talk about a couple of Cleveland Browns, because I have to tell you, Harold Fannin Jr. did something that nobody expected. They moved him around the field. Harold Fannin Jr. was the designated slot wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns, the only player that played more snaps in this, or had a higher slot snap percentage for the Browns, played significantly fewer routes than Jamari Thrash. And I have to tell you, Harold Fannin Jr. was up over 53% in the slot. 9 targets. That was a team high. It was only 63 yards, but he had a 0.31 targets per route run. Targets per route run is one of the defining stats that are predictive for wide receiver success. That indicates how many times they were targeted on their routes. Obviously. 24% first read target share. Joe Flacco had eyes for one man and one man only, and that was Harold Fannin Jr. But I will say, if you want another one from the Cleveland Browns, Cedric Tillman in 5 healthy games since Amari Cooper left the Browns, 9.6 targets per game, 5.8 receptions on a 70.8 receiving yards, 14.8 fantasy points per game. That is a full season pace of 163 targets, almost 100 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 14. As long as Joe Flacco is throwing the ball, I definitely want these players. He's even outpaced Jerry Jeudy by well over a point per game, keeping in mind that Jerry Jeudy last year, over the back half of the season, was only outscored by Jamar Chase in points per game. He was better than CeeDee Lamb, better than Malik Neighbors, better than Puka Nacua and company. And Cedric Tillman in those 5 games, smaller sample size, still outpacing him. No, do not drop Nico Collins for Cedric Tillman. T-Will, please don't do that. I know the Texans looked woeful, but let's bring
the brakes on that.
Let's bring it back. Nico Collins is still that boy, if you would. A couple more. Kayshon Boutte, 75.5% of the routes, and yes, that is how you say his name. It is Boutte. It is not Boutte. Our guy John Hansen interviewed him years ago at the I believe at the Combine. He made the joke. Dude was not impressed by it at all. It is Kayshon Boutte. 75.5% of the routes. Keep in mind, this is the player that led Patriots wide receivers at the back end of last year in air yards. That is yards targeted that obviously went the distance. With 138 air yards this last week at a 15.2 expected fantasy points per game. Now keep in mind, Stephon Diggs, he did only play, I believe it was 57% of the snaps. He ran, 57% of the routes, if I'm not mistaken. I asked our guy Brett Whitefield, the lead charter. He runs the data suite is his baby. That is his charting team. If I have a film question, I ask Brett Whitefield, especially with wide receivers evaluation. He was the highest on Puka Nacua, etc. If you want sleepers, fantasypoints.com, we got you covered. I asked, how does Stephon Diggs look? And he said the same he's looked for the last couple of years. So I expect usage a lot like what you saw in Houston. I called Stephon Diggs a tight end. That's kind of how he plays now. He's the tight end 1 on whatever team he is on. A lot of short, intermediate routes, not a lot of the big horizontal breaking routes, etc. But that's what I'm expecting from him. So you actually have potential for the deep threat of this offense to be Kayshon Boutte, and if Drake May is the prince that was promised, if he's going to equal up to his ADP and all of the hype, he's going to need it. And Boutte looks like his favorite target to this point. Definitely somebody you also want to be on the lookout for. And I will tell you this, for dynasty managers, redraft managers, however you're playing fantasy football, I understand that Tank Bigsby got traded. You should be buying into Travis Etienne, but also don't rush to drop Bashal Tuden. He's a fantasy points favorite. However, the player, I have to tell you this, Huss, that got picked up across all 50 of my dynasty leagues that I play in, got picked up the most was LaQuinn Allen. This is the pass-catching running back in this offense as of now. Tuden has to pass him for snaps. LaQuinn Allen should be rostered on every single fantasy team, whether it is redraft or dynasty, especially if these are deep plays. And I also can tell you, we just got news. Brock Purdy, very unlikely to play. It is a long shot. Get ready to see McCoy Jones suit up for the San Francisco 49ers, as well as obviously George Kittle being on IR. So, like I said, play Ricky Pearsall, because that man is so good at what he does. But those are 4 players, Huss, that I think need to be rostered continuously. And a long shot, Malik Washington. He led the Miami Dolphins in route share as well, 72.2%, 2 designed targets. Waddle's already banged up, and Tyreek Hill's on a fast track to getting out of there. Malik Washington is also a nice deep stash for the Miami Dolphins.
My God, were the Dolphins horrible, and nice start for the Colts actually as well. Danny Dimes certainly taking care. You're in a 2 QB league and had him in your lineup. You're doing very, very well.
Tried to tell everybody about Michael Pittman Jr. And yes, Josh Downs didn't produce, but that's why I say pick up both. Michael Pittman Jr. is healthy, and when he's healthy, he is wide receiver 1. We'll see what happens this week with
Tyler Warren. Speaking of the Colts,
yes, Tyler Warren, unreal.
Came right out of the gate exactly as I was hoping to see, getting tons of targets early and making a name for himself right off the bat. Quickly before we go, who are the guys that have increasing levels of concern tied to them based on week 1 performance and as well as just the way their teams are shaping up for potential opportunities moving forward?
The Tennessee Titans offense looked woeful, and a lot of that comes from their coach. Doesn't understand what he can and can't challenge.
That was so embarrassing.
That is, we talked about this last night. You can find the Dynasty Points podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We started the show with that in a profanity laced opening, more than we tend to like, but we found it to be so egregious that NFL head coach doesn't understand the rules of what he can and can't challenge. A lot of people, there's a big debate on Twitter right now about did you even watch the film, bro, when it comes to the Cam Ward and how he played. His stats were bottom tier. I believe he was 30th in most, or 30th or 31st in most quarterback metrics that are tracked by watching film, which is the thing that I find the funniest about the film versus analytics debate. You don't get the analytics without charting the games. It is impossible. You can't do it. One has to work with the other in perfect unison for it to make sense. But I would say everyone on the Tennessee Titans, not named Tony Pollard and Calvin Ridley, could be in for a long season. We talked about the Miami Dolphins and how woeful that was. I am woefully concerned about Bryce Young. He looked absolutely terrible. And along those lines, we also have Trevor Lawrence, who was, again, woefully bad. Liam Cohen could not fix Trevor Lawrence in one game. I mean, it is just one game, but he is known as a quarterback whisperer. I am concerned. Brian Thomas Jr. drafted in the first round or at the 1-2 turn, and yet Travis Hunter had a team-high 8 targets, a 75.8% routes, 76% in the slot, 3 design targets, completely looking like he is in the Chris Godwin role. So a little bit concerning for Brian Thomas Jr. Trevor Lawrence missed him on multiple attempts. Travis Hunter should have had, an 80-yard touchdown that Trevor Lawrence just underthrew, while Horn made a phenomenal one-handed interception. So I'm concerned about some of the Jaguars wide receivers. Also worried about some of the Houston Texans and that play upside of what there was one giant takeaway from week 1 is the offensive lines were dreadful. They were absolutely terrible. I thought there were 4 decent offensive lines in all of football in week 1. And Houston, we know the problem was the offensive line. Last year, Bobby Slowick is gone. No scapegoat for Houston. They really need to turn that around in a really, 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 really big way. But those are the players that I am most concerned about. There are some other ones that are kind of getting blown up. I see a comment about Marion Hampton. I don't see that as a big concern for what the fantasy community is going on about. It looked like there was a very deliberate plan. If you know anything about Greg Roman offenses, the run game is very complicated. It is a complex thing. I truly believe it opens up a little bit more when he's not getting all the work. It felt like every run was very basic, very set shotgun. They're not using their pinch and pull the way that they were. So I'm not concerned about Amiri Hampton. For those asking in the chat, I'm still very much in play with Hampton, but the running games across the league looked pretty bad. I believe only 2 teams really ran the ball well, which was obviously Travis Etienne and then obviously Christian McCaffrey, but even McCaffrey was more volume based. So very interesting to see. But those are what I'm concerned about. I'm definitely just not concerned about rookies. I'm not concerned about Genty. I'm not concerned about Henderson. I'm all in on Igbuka, especially after that big week 1.
Oh, yeah.
I will say my concern for the Bucs, it's still kind of standing true. I think Baker Mayfield is the best, worst looking quarterback in the NFL. He plays and looks terrible. And then out of nowhere, he goes for like a 25-yard run and then throws 2 dimes, and all is forgotten with how bad he looks. Again, another offensive line needs work, but I'm still very concerned about the Bucs long term. But Igbuka in Dynasty is one of those reasons we were saying bye. I will also say concerned for the Broncos running game. Sean Payton has this weird addiction to playing the worst running backs on his roster. Like RJ Harvey so clearly looked better than everyone else on that roster, but yet here comes Sean Payton to just continuously toss out absolute jags and fat running backs and slow melodic plotters that make me sad to watch. So I'm very concerned about the Broncos running game until RJ Harvey gets to pass one pretty dusty looking J.K. Dobbins. Hopefully that answers as many questions as you can.
Thomas, great stuff as always. I've been loving the site. Just on the way out, we're finished the first week of action, and now the Fantasy Points team goes to work. What will be waiting for people when they check out Fantasy Points coming out of the week as we get ready for week 2?
Literally everything. Every stat that I rattled off here today, you can find in the Everything Report. The Everything Report is Scott Barrett's big, long article that literally breaks down every single meaningful stat from the week that you could possibly need is in the Everything Report. I believe that requires a Fantasy Points premium subscription. That alone is worth the price of admission. Everything from the charts that you need to really being able to break it down. This is 7,000 8,000 words of just fantasy football god tier level stuff. We have every waiver that I discussed except for 1 or 2 of my own. Guess what? You find that in the waiver wire report for week 2. John Hansen, Theo Grevinger, Joe Dolan, Tom Brawley, legends in the game, sit there and they go through your leagues for your waiver wire, including, you guessed it, more data to help you make a functional decision. And then, of course, we have the Game Hub. Game Hub is where you want to be to keep track of overs, unders, point totals, betting, more data. It is a nonstop information playground for anyone that plays fantasy football. This is something that every fantasy player, in my opinion, could benefit from. You can get a basic NFL standard subscription. Obviously, you guys have your promo code. Hammer that promo code. Do not wait. And this is the one thing I tell you. Yes, I am a salesman right now, but let me tell you why I'm such a believer in fantasypoints.com. Fantasypoints.com is a type of website you don't wait 6 weeks to give it a try, because by the time you're waiting 6 weeks to give it a try, you've already lost the money that you could have spent on getting your subscription and doubling your money along the way. We have bettors that outbet Vegas with just our projections alone. And not to mention a fully functioning Discord with multiple betting channels, fantasy channels. We have start sits. We have waiver wire shows. We have today. I went live with John Hansen from SiriusXM this morning for Hump Day with Hansen. That's a show we do every Wednesday to kind of get the vibes. There's literally nothing that Fantasy Points cannot provide you to make you a better, stronger, more financially stable fantasy football. This is the reason. The fantasy points is the reason I left my career here in Winnipeg. It is the reason we are one of the fastest growing, not only fantasy football sites, but YouTube channels, podcast networks, and one of the most highly respected data providing companies in the game. Everything that I'm right. You can sound like me with your friends, with all of the data
Battle it off
that you have, just with a fantasy point subscription. So please, if anyone has any questions or needs, you can feel free to reach out to me at elnostratomas. That's ELNOSTRA Thomas, THOMAS, across all social media platforms. I have no life. This is all that I do. I am here in my war room 24/7. So please feel free to reach out to me with your questions. Chat, I see you guys. Please reach out to me if you have any questions about fantasy points. I'll answer them. I can get you set up, whatever you guys need. And of course, I'll always be here with you.
I love it. I love it. And full endorsement to everything Thomas said. I cannot get enough of the site. It has been so much fun, and hope it'll help me with I listen, it is week one. I consider myself fortunate to have gone 2-2 against the spread. We will look to get that a little bit better for the weekend. Thomas, have a great one, man. Thanks again, and good luck this week.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
On. There's Thomas Tipple, fantasypoints.com. Go check it out. And again, the final 2 subs will be given away on Friday. So if you haven't already, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. And get that in there. All right. Let's get to a little fan feedback for Fans First right now. Lots of good stuff. Milner on the Kaprizov bit. Kaprizov has always struck me as a guy who will play wherever the bleep he wants to. MC Stormy just loving the weather outside. But then getting into, if Zach is concussed, O'Shea must put his health first and tell him he will never play another down for the Blue Bombers. I mean, I think it is a personal choice. I'm not sure that the team needs to make that decision, but definitely needs to be supportive of whatever he and his family feel going forward. Comment looking for doctors in the chat. Keith Lillis, he shouldn't play until he's clear those protocols. That's 100% the fact. We got to take Milt's advice there. And then a comment saying Jack could take over Hogan's job next year. Keep your thoughts coming. Keith Sills would love to see Zach join the staff and become OC when he retires. I'm not sure whether Zach is a guy that, will want to be a coach, but certainly, I mean, when it comes to Canadian football and offenses, few people have more experience as him doing it. Keep it all coming. Fan feedback is brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market. Bomber games are always sold out. You're going to find tickets, fansfirst.ca. You got a couple extra tickets, sell them there. And again, at Fan First, what you see is what you pay. No added fees, unlike all the other ticket resale sites. Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. All right, let's get to the Coolbet lines for tonight. Blue Jays back in action. Just had some line movement, actually, in that game. Jays went from minus 147 to minus 154 on the money line. What a game last night. Thrilling comeback. IKF, who would have thunk it, as the hero in the 9th inning. Berrios is on the mound tonight. We were talking with Dusty earlier today. Do like the Jays to win this one. We're going to go with Vladdy Guerrero Jr. over 1.5 total bases at plus 105. If you do, Vlad's been hitting a ton of singles lately. If you think that'll continue, 2 singles for Vlad Guerrero is just about 4-1, plus 394. But we'll go with the total bases, a lower number, but we can get it in one hit. Super Boost tonight, plus 125. Vladdy to get a hit, George Springer to get a hit. Boosted from minus 128 to plus 125. There's the hit parade tonight. Paul Skeens Day. Always love that. Over under on Skeens strikeout. Plus 398. And an even draw in the first inning. Some fun ones up there. And again, as we get closer to the weekend, we will have our boosted parlays up with myself, Pat, and Jake. And don't forget, 10 a.m. on Friday, our weekly WST Winners Edition. of the NFL pick show. Coolbet.com is where you're going to find it all. Latest lines in the CFL. Strevler starting for the Bombers. Bombers are now 7-point favorites. They were 7-point underdogs. They were 5.5-point underdogs yesterday. BC 9.5-point favorites at home against Ottawa. Toronto 3.5-point favorites at home against the Elks. And the Saskatchewan Roughriders 8-point favorites at home against the Alouettes. Sounds like MBT will be starting for Montreal. And tomorrow in the NFL, we're back at it. Thursday night football. Should be a great one. Washington and Green Bay. This had been 3.5, and I see that it has just moved to 3, with the Commanders getting even money at 3. Green Bay minus 118 on minus 3. Money line for tomorrow, Green Bay minus 182, and Washington plus 153. Seems like there's a lot of action on that game right now, in between 3 and 3.5 points. Use the promo code WST if you haven't played it. Coolbet before for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. And hey, we'll announce this tomorrow, but for those of you that are with us late, WST Poker Series is back. We are going to be doing Poker Wednesdays, tons of free nights with the Jets off. The next one is going to be 2 weeks today, the 24th of September. And if you want to mark it down, these other dates, we are going to go Wednesday, September 24th, Wednesday, October 22nd, Wednesday, November 19th, and Wednesday, December 10th. So get that Coolbet account going and join us for fun poker nights with some great additional prizes and bounties on myself and Michael Remis as well. All right, let's get Remo in here. Reem, how did things go at ASD last night for you?
Man, I actually had an okay night. I had a winner. I hit one of my trifecta boxes, and then one of my horses got scratched, so my bet got returned. Does that count? That count as a win?
That's a push. That's a push. I had one as well. One of my triactors pushed.
Okay.
That was the only thing I had returning.
So
I had 6.
I had one winner. That was, let me just double check. I think it was like $40. $38.95.
Ooh, which one?
Race 4. I had 3, 5, and 6.
Nicely done.
Amma Draw Jopper 1. That was a favorite. Dreaming Out Loud was pretty big, but the horse that finished 3rd, Just Speculating, when we bet it, it was like 6-1. Finished at 16-1. So that's probably what bumped it up.
Yeah, definitely. All right, nice work. So you catch up a bit of ground on me. Let's get to our picks for tonight. Live racing at Assiniboia Downs, 7:30 p.m. Of course, you can watch it live on YouTube and bet at hpibet.com if you'd like. But on such a gorgeous night, I don't think there's any reason why, if you've got the time, you wouldn't want to head out to the track this evening. I am on races 4, 5, 6, and 7. What about you?
I'm on races 1, 4, 6, and 7.
All right. Well, fire up your race number 1 pick.
Sure. I'm just responding to a comment from Schickster, who won one of our poker tournaments. Huss said he bought a 3D printer with his winnings.
Nicely done. Little Chuck Hellebuck action going on for the Schickster.
Some good 3D printing info.
You know what? Win the poker tourney, buy a 3D printer, and then subscribe to Chuck Hellebuck's YouTube channel for more information on how to use it. All right, what do you got in race 1?
That's a good YouTube channel. 1-7 exacta box, unarmed, and baby likes to rock.
Nicely done. All right, we're going to skip 2 and 3. I'm going to race 4.
I'm on race 4 as well.
And I'm doing a 1-3-7 triactor box for this one. So it's a $6 bet, taking out Frankie's Girl, who's part of the program selections in AI Smart Picks, and popping in Ropers and Wranglers. So a 1-3-7 for race number 4 is where I'm starting off.
That's funny because I have Frankie's Girl to win. That's it. So I just went with Frankie's Girl. It's second on the program selection, just behind Get My Drift. So we're going to opposite sides of this one, Huss.
Yeah, we are. Going with race number 5, I'm actually going with another triactor box. And I got the top two. I guess I have the AI smart picks here because I am 1-3-4 for this one. So East Coast Cowgirl, Sophia Storm, the heavy favorite, and Distinctive Deb, not taking Summit Up as my third possible winner. So 1-3-4 for race number 5.
Nicely done. I'm on race 6. I just have 6 and 7 left. Exacta box 1 and 4. Blue Sky Jade, Cajun Eddie, going with the two, horses that have, human first names, Eddie and Jade, but they're also the program selection and AI smart pick.
I did a $2 Exacta box as well with Blue Sky Jade number 1, but I am opting not to go with Cajun Eddie, and I'm going with number 6, the aptly titled Wrong Direction. So Wrong Direction and Blue Sky Jade. He's got 1-4. I got 1-6. It'll probably be 4-6, and then we'll both lose. What about race number 7?
A lot of 3D printing talk now in the chat house.
Great.
Dan Jets fan has a 3D printer and also follows Chuck Hellebuck for some good tips. There you go.
Why wouldn't you?
Of course, I think he's among the influencers in the 3D printing space. But I got 1 to 3 trifecta. Brinson, Rough Customer, and Green Amazon. So I'm going 1, 2. Those are the program selections, and a bit of a longer shot bumps up the payout in Green Amazon. So we'll see.
It's kind of funny. Yeah. I got $4 left, and I'm going with the one horse that you bounced out of the top 3 program selections to win. I'm going $4 on number 8, Flying Tex, to win.
That's crazy. We don't really consult on each other's picks, but we have made them. So I did it to you in race. I think it was the other race. I did a try. Anyways, we'll see how it goes. So I picked the winner, the one you left out. Anyways, we'll see. We're going head to head. I think you've got a bit of a lead on me still, but I'm slowly making up ground.
Well,
we got like a month left here.
Yeah, you made up some ground yesterday, and we do have it. There will be Monday racing next week at the Downs. That'll be the final Monday of the year, but still rolling Tuesday, Wednesdays. And don't forget, tonight is ladies' night. They've got $150 for the best hats, some cash prizes, $5 cocktails and eats, and a bunch of other great deals if you want to get out with the ladies and take advantage of some great deals tonight out at Assiniboia Downs. 7:30 they go to post, free parking, free admission. Fun show today. Lots going on, and we got another packed one tomorrow, Remis.
Yeah, and we're going to have Taylor Allen today, but the Bombers went late, and he's flying to Hamilton. He'll join me on Monday to recap the game, but he said, here's the Zach update. He was in the locker room, working out in the weight room. I asked Mike if Zach will play again. He believes he will. The exact quote from Mike O'Shea, yeah, I would assume so. So all the stuff that we said on the Monday show about, he's going to retire, he's over, seems seemingly not the case. We don't have the medical information that the Bombers have that, there's been so much wild speculation online. So, hey, if the doctors are clearing him and he seems fine, he's going to play and I don't know how long he's going to be out us. Maybe it's just the 1 week here. Wait and see, but I think that's good news because it didn't look good after that hit. I mean,
it didn't look good. And then we heard the coach saying, well, we just take these things as they come and we don't really think about prior injuries. And then 20 minutes later, they said it's a head injury, which, it's obviously not the way that things are handled in 2025. That being said, Alcouture and the medical staff will always be doing what's in the player's best interest. And Zach's a competitor. If he feels like he can go and he's healthy enough and ready to do it, you obviously want to see him out there. But at the same time, you want the player to take care of himself. And as they say, they haven't said concussion. They've just said head injury. So take that for what you will. It'll be Chris Streveler leading the Bombers against Bo Levi Mitchell on Friday night. We're going to have Simone Lawrence popping on the program tomorrow. Jonathan Taves and Adam Lowry will be speaking. Ken Weeb's going to join us after that. So we got a big show tomorrow. And I think Hacksaw, he's actually traveling on Friday. So we're going to squeeze him in tomorrow. We'll get Patty on to set up the Thursday nighter. and much, much more. So make sure to join us then. Huge thanks to all of our sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Great to have you all with us, podcast listeners, YouTube viewers. We appreciate you all, and we certainly appreciate the support of our amazing sponsors that make this show possible each and every day. That is going to do it for us. Thank you to Murat. Thanks to Thomas Tipple, Dennis Bernstein, Michael O'Connor, and all of you for making us a part of your day. Enjoy the weather. Get outside today, folks, and make sure you're here with us tomorrow, 1 p.m. live on YouTube for another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.